What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories.
3 rupees. Chapter 51. Advertise here. After a while, the expression on Waldo's face relaxed, and he laughed. Then I will see how you will reach the top of this world. Ambitious man. After yelling, his body fell straight down, making a pop. Captain, Karma exclaimed with a nervous look on his face. That guy has reached his limit, save him and the rest of his crew. Jangl said with a smile on his face. For Waldo so quickly, he got up again from the planted somersault, he seemed slightly surprised. Choosing the other party to be your own crew is based on the ability of the other party, and on the other hand, its attitude towards one's relatives. Such a pirate ship, not to mention how kind, is at least affectionate and righteous. And, how many people can say that it is pure kindness to survive on this sea? The pirate civilization shown in the original work is just a corner of Madara. The real pirates burn, kill, and plunder. What evil do they not do? A trustworthy partner who is kind and righteous is rare. Yes, Karma was taken aback for a moment, and then led the other crew members into action immediately. There are 5 people including Waldo. 3 people were severely injured, and 2 of them were unconscious and need emergency treatment. Captain, Waldo's injury is too serious. Whether he can be rescued, I'm not sure. Soon, the nervous cry came to mind on the boat. The ship doctor on the boat was still one of the Karma group, who was of a half-hearted level. His face was sweaty at this time, and he felt a headache for the injuries of these 5 guys. Especially Waldo's injuries are beyond the scope of his ability. All-out treatment, Jangl shouted. After a pause, he said again. I believe this guy will definitely survive. Yes. The ship doctor shouted loudly, hurriedly carried the medicine box on his back, rushed over, began to concentrate, and treated the 5 people. Jangl stood by and watched, and suddenly noticed a person. Wait, save this woman first. He vaguely remembered that after Waldo was released from prison, among the pirates in the old ministry, there was a female ship doctor named Nakan, who used Chinese boxing techniques. Yes, boss. The ship doctor was stunned, then turned around quickly, and looked at Nakan's injury again. She is not badly injured, she will wake up soon. I will deal with her wound first. After checking, the ship doctor took a quick route. Nakan did wake up very quickly. After just a few minutes, the young woman opened her eyes, her face blank. I'm alive. Jangl smiled upon hearing this, of course you are still alive. But now, you should worry more about Waldo and your friends. Nakan's expression changed and she immediately got up. When she saw Waldo and others lying unconscious beside him, her face was full of tension. I remember we were besieged by Marine and Cullen betrayed. Are you pirates? Jangl grinned. Not only that, your captain has joined my pirate group before he passed out. Nakan was stunned, but soon, she checked Waldo's injuries. He was seriously injured. I need some medical equipment to give him emergency rescue. The ship doctor quickly said. I have them here. Can you save it? Jangl asked aloud. My captain, naturally I won't let him die. And. Pursing her lips, Nakan gritted her teeth. He's not a man who dies so easily. Afterwards, the woman moved calmly, but moved quickly and accurately. The boat doctor stood aside and looked a little embarrassed. Only for a moment, he realized that this woman's medical skills were much better than his own. He had never heard of many treatments, and had never heard of them. Everyone waited silently. Nakan took a full 6 hours for Waldo's operation before she exhaled and her expression relaxed. Out of the danger period. There was a smile on Jangl's face, Karma, and cheers in Tianyu. Gyram, don't pretend to be asleep, everyone is watching you. Turning her head slightly, Naichin said to the man lying next to her. The latter moved, then opened his eyes and jumped up abruptly. It's really embarrassing. Scratching the back of his head, Gyram grinned. Jangl carefully identified it and found that the opponent should be the one who has the ability to master the cube fruit. Since you wake up, just wait quietly. Nakan then performed treatment procedures on the other 2, and 5 hours passed in a blink of an eye. They are all fine. As soon as this sentence was exported, everyone on the ship burst into laughter. Banquet. A new member has joined. Captain, we should have a celebration party. Jangl also laughed. It's right to celebrate, but I have to wait for Waldo to wake up too. You guys, you are so anxious. Ha. Everyone laughed. Nakan was silent, and did not respond, just secretly observing the men in front of her. Gyram said embarrassedly. So, after we were besieged by Marine, did everyone save us? It's the captain. Karma shouted. Then, our captain Valdo, joined your pirate group. Gyram said. The boss invited Waldo, and he agreed. Karma rode. Then I can rest assured, it seems that for the time being, there is no danger. Gyram grinned, and then he looked at Waldo. Next, just wait for Waldo to wake up and confirm the authenticity of this matter. Chapter 52. The pirate boat was traveling steadily on the sea, the black flag was blown by the sea breeze to hunt and shake, and sometimes fish jumped out of the water, stirring up waves. The few remaining members of the Valdo pirates are also waking up one after another. Bin Jack, the original deputy captain, is also a think tank in the regiment. He is proficient in various kinds of intelligence, and his combat effectiveness is basically zero. Garp, a person with cube fruit ability, can turn any object into a cube shape, move it, and pile it up together. He is also a good combatant. Sebastian, a giant fish. Nakan, the ship doctor and combatant of the pirates' regiment, uses Chinese boxing techniques to make herself young through drugs, and can hardly see any old appearance. In addition, Waldo, who has not yet come to his senses, has a total of 5 people. At this time, everyone was concentrated on the deck, the sea breeze was blowing, and the atmosphere looked strange. Bin Jack's eyes flickered, and he kept looking at Jangl Liú, Tianyushi and Karma and others, thinking in his heart. My group was betrayed by Cullen and fell into the siege of Marine. In that battle, they experienced defeat and went into a coma, so I didn't know what happened afterwards. When I woke up, I saw these strange pirates. So it seems that they saved us. Then, the fact that Waldo joined them by the other party seems to have its truth. Otherwise, as a pirate, I am afraid that we will not be accepted so easily. He glanced slightly. He was still in a coma, but he was already snoring, and he was also relieved in his heart for the injured Waldo who was hanging the bottle. No matter what, I finally survived. Sebastian said in a buzzing voice at the moment. Able to rescue us from the siege of the 6 marine warships, it seems that your strength is quite strong. Of course. The boss is a great swordsman who can split a warship with a single knife. Marine Vice Admiral is just a guy that the boss can solve in an instant. Karma said loudly, exaggeratedly flattered, and exaggerated. Great swordsman. So amazing. Sebastian glanced at Jangl Liú. The man sitting cross-legged on the deck saw his gaze, smiled slightly, and nodded at him. In an instant, there was a warm flow flowing through Sebastian's heart, and there was admiration in his eyes. This man looks more friendly than Captain Waldo and has a charming personality. After all, most people will see his mermaid status with a different light. And in this man's heart, there was no discrimination in his eyes, as if he was just their kind, releasing a sense of friendliness. Captain, where are we going next? Jangl Liú narrowed his eyes and smiled on his face. Dressrosa. Dressrosa. Doubt appeared on Karma's face. Boss, what are we going to do there? The others asked aloud. There is a guy, I am very optimistic. Jangl Liú said with a smile. Cyrus, the legendary hero of the arena of Delos Rosa, has an incredible 3,000 match undefeated status. It is C Circle Calendar 1494, the second year Odin joined the Whitebeard Pirates. He has not yet entered Roger's pirate group, and Roger has not become the One Piece King. It is a great era when the heroes are competing against each other. Golden Lion Shiki, now famous and powerful, is the famous admiral of the Golden Lion Fleet, flying pirate. It is also his chance to gather potential guys from all sides to join this pirate group and do great things. Talent is the most precious no matter when. Jangl Liú deeply understands this truth. He has a vision that is ahead of the world and can be called an omniscient and omnipotent vision. Who has the potential, who is strong, is very clear in their hearts. The pirate ship turned its bow and headed towards Dressrosa. Time passed slowly, and in a blink of an eye it was already 5 days later. Waldo's condition got better and better, his breathing became stable, and the wounds on his body began to scab, which made Nakan and the others happy. And during the 5 days of getting along, the 4 people who had just joined the pirate group gradually became familiar with each other and began to integrate into the pirate group. Even at dusk yesterday, Karma and others held a small banquet while pulling Sebastian, and the 2 drank their noses in tears. They all have Murloc genes and have a common language. After drinking high, they loudly denounced the various damn it of human beings, making Jangl Liú and others on the side look ugly. It wasn't until the end that everyone's expressions improved slightly when they talked about how their companions were kind to them and how touched they were. On the 6th day, Waldo finally woke up from a coma. Captain, Waldo, Nakan, Bin Jack and others screamed excitedly. Are you all okay? When Waldo saw the familiar person, his face also showed a smile. Afterwards, he sat up vigorously, and when he saw Jangl Liú standing right across from him, he was slightly startled, and then showed a pale smile. Thank you for saving me, Captain. Taking a deep breath, Waldo scanned the crew in front of him. The Valdo Pirates, all members, from this moment. It's all yours. Chapter 53. Advertise here. The 4 of Bin Jack turned their heads and looked at Jangl Liú. They have been integrated into this pirate group after being together for 5 days. Now that Waldo has confirmed, he has accepted this fact in his heart. Well, everyone is welcome to join. Jangl Liú smiled and said with a big smile. Karma, move out the good wines Newgate gave me, today we have a good celebration. Celebrate Waldo's waking up with the joining of Jack, Sebastian, Nakan, and Garp. Excited on the surface of Karma. Yes, boss. Then, the lively celebration began. Barrels of good wine were moved out, and the team of chefs was rushing to cook delicious food, and the deck was full of excitement. With a bandage tied all over his body and a sling on his wrist, Waldo still sat firmly on the deck. Ha 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 ha. Have a good drink, Waldo, as a celebration of your sobriety and rebirth. Jangl Liú laughed loudly, raised the cup in his hand, and collided with each other. For a moment, Vardo also smiled. Are you a new student? It's true. Then, I hope, Captain, the next adventure that will bring us will surprise us. As he said, he raised his head and poured the drink into his stomach. Never let you down. Jangl Liú also drank it. Ha 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 ha. There was a lot of laughter on the boat. Karma, Sebastian, Nakan and others all gathered together in the sky and moon. Ashi, let me tell you, I have a prescription here that can keep you young. Even if you get old in the future, you will still be so young and beautiful. Nakan leaned in Tianyushi's ear and said softly. Really? If this is the case, Jangl Liú will not be attracted to other women. In Tianyu, both eyes were wide open, with a look of surprise on his face. Of course, this is an exclusive I researched out by myself, it's an exclusive secret recipe, I won't tell other people. Nakan whispered. Thank you so much, Celery, you are so kind. Tianyushi embraced the other party excitedly. Nakan became stiff, but soon showed a helpless expression and relaxed. It still feels weird to be called Celery. However, the innocent look of the woman in front of her really made her like it. But for a moment, Karma drinking up, pulled Sebastian to sing the pirate's song, while Guy Ram was playing his instrument. On the pirate ship, there were waves of melodious music and singing, and the black pirate flag fluttered in the wind. 3 days later, at the port of Dressrosa, Jangl Liú jumped down from the bow and looked at the lively harbor ahead with a smile on his face. I'm very curious, what kind of man is the guy you can see? Waldo jumped down immediately, holding 2 pitch-black projectiles in his hands, and said with a faint smile. Never let you down. Jangl Liú smiled. Then I am looking forward to it. Waldo said. Afterwards, the group walked toward Dressrosa mightily. But after their figures gradually submerged into the city, a figure hidden in the dark withdrew its gaze, and dialed the phone worm in his arms with a solemn expression. Is it the headquarters? Find the target. Berndi Valdo is with the target. Preliminarily, Waldo and the remaining remnants should have joined the Black Flag. I know, this is a major news, and I will continue to monitor them. Okay, I will be careful. Afterwards, the phone worm hung up, and the figure let out a long sigh, his face extremely solemn. The big pirate Berndi Waldo, who offered a reward of 500 million, actually succumbed to a mysterious great swordsman. What is even more shocking is that this mysterious great swordsman, his strength far exceeds naval headquarters' expectations of him. Destroy the 4 warships, and the 2 vice-admiral, the winners and losers were only determined in an instant. On the other side, naval headquarters, before a huge long table. This is all the information we have collected so far about Shimotsuki Jiāng Liú. He was on the ship of Whitebeard Edward Newgate before, and later left and formed the Black Flag Pirates. The currently known crew members include the Octopus Karma with a bounty of 250 million, the female swordsman Tianyushi, Shimotsuki Jiāng Liú, and some other small characters. After a pause, Sora said again. But according to the latest intelligence, in that battle, the Valdo that this group rescued should have already chosen to join them. This sentence changed the expressions of Vice Admiral and Admiral all present here. Berndi Waldo, this is a notorious guy. He who offered a reward of 500 million yuan, did he choose to join Jangl Liú's pirate group? This is not good news. Zephyr said in a deep voice. Waldo, definitely considered famous, has played against Golden Lion, Roger, Whitebeard and others. Garp also said with a faint smile. However, I am more interested in Jangl Liú. The empty shot patted the table and said in a deep voice. You are called here precisely to negotiate a new reward for this warrior from Wanokuni. Obviously, the previous 200 million. His eyes suddenly sharpened, and Kong's voice became more serious. I seriously underestimated the power of this guy. Chapter 54. Split the sea with a slash, and slash can easily destroy a warship. After establishing the Black Flag Pirates, he destroyed 4 warships and 2 vice-admiral in the first stop. From the 6 warships, he rescued Berndi Waldo, who had a reward of 500 million. This man is seriously underestimated. Sora's words were loud and echoed in the conference room. Before the long table, a group of vice-admiral, after Admiral heard, their faces became serious. It is conceivable that if it is allowed to develop, it is very likely that in the future, it will become a big pirate who is not inferior to Whitebeard, Shiki, Roger and others. It will greatly affect the situation of the entire world. Zephyr said in a deep voice at this time, such a guy has the potential of a big pirate. Perhaps we should take advantage of his pirate group's immaturity and act first to solve this potential threat. Kong nodded. It's true. If you offer a bounty, I think 1.5 billion is more appropriate. But as Marshal Sora said, his danger is beyond doubt. Sengoku suddenly said and gave an accurate reward. 1.5 billion. Kong nodded after pondering for a moment. It's already a pretty high number, and it's even more exaggerated for the Black Flag that just emerged on the Grand Line. Sengoku said again. Then, as Sengoku said, immediately issue a reward order to Shimotsuki Jiāng Liú, with a reward of 1.5 billion. Sora said loudly. Afterwards, he was stern. In addition, such a guy must be dealt with as soon as possible. Sengoku, Zephyr, Garp, I need you to give a battle plan. Garp laughed loudly. Recently, I may not have this time, and I have no time to pay attention to Jangl Liú. Have you forgotten, Sora, our next goal, but that man? Hearing such words, the 2 Admiral, Sengoku and Zephyr sitting next to him became serious. Kong's expression sank even more. Ladefield. Compared to the current Jiāng Liú, he is undoubtedly more dangerous. I will go out myself and send him into impel down. Sengoku is very serious. I have gotten his clues. I believe that soon, the intelligence department will come to where he is. Then, after issuing the reward order, set off immediately. Sora shouted loudly. End of the meeting. All the general officers stood up, saluted to the empty space, and then turned and left quickly. Among them, Garp and Sengoku were side by side, with a smile on their faces. Jiāng Liú, this kid, must let me. Warrior of Wanokuni, I must have a good experience. Sengoku snorted coldly. Don't always think of stealing my military merits, Garp, you are not an admiral anyway. Ha 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 ha. Garp laughed. Let's first think about how to solve the fellow Letterfield. Zephyr said lightly from the side. It's time for a headache. Garp said with a smile behind his hands. With the end of the Marine Conference, a storm has been set off in newspapers all over the world. Brand new reward orders have also flown around the world. Shimotsuki Jiāng Liú, 1.5 billion bounty. Black Flag Pirates. Who is this man? Just when he appeared, he had a reward of 1.5 billion. Is there another big pirate? It's a turbulent era. Countless pairs of surprised and shocked eyes all looked at Jiāng Liú's photo at this moment. Young, handsome face, brows filled with a touch of domineering, but the whole body's temperament is gentle and charming. Wearing a loose kimono with a pair of swords slung around his waist, his black hair was simply erected. East Blue, Shimotsuki Village. Koshiro, look at this reward order, the man on it looks a bit like you. A laugh sounded, and then, the reward order was handed aside a young man in a kimono wearing glasses with a knife on his waist. Oh, Koshiro froze and accepted the reward. When he saw the reward order, the pupils under Koshiro's glasses suddenly shrank. Shimotsuki. His eyes became serious. The man on the reward order is indeed somewhat similar to him in terms of temperament or charm, and the two of them are as if they came from the same place. The surname Shimotsuki makes Koshiro's eyes complicated. What? Do you know him? The person next to him asked in confusion. Do not know. Koshiro shook his head, put the reward order away, turned and left. 1.5 billion bounty. Did the Shimotsuki samurai walk out of Wanokuni? And becoming the captain of the pirate group is really surprising to me. Has the country been founded? Muttered. Koshiro's heart could not be calm for a long time. He suddenly gave birth to a touch of curiosity, wanting to meet this man named Shimotsuki Jiāng Liú. At the same time, on an unknown island, a young man with eagle eyes was brandishing a knife. On the stone behind him, there was a reward order, worth 1.5 billion. Great swordsman. The world's top swordsman. My future will be like this man, no. I want to surpass him. Become the world's largest swordsman. The eagle eyes are sharper, and the man trains frantically. In this chaotic era, Jiāng Liú quietly rose up, and at this moment, it amazed everyone. At the same time, Dressrosa, in the bullfighting arena. Jiāng Liú's group took their seats, and then looked at the man on the arena. He is the man I value. A great swordsman who is about to win 3,000 consecutive games. Chapter 55. Advertise here. At the time of Tianyu, Waldo, Karma and others were sitting beside him, hearing the words, they all looked towards the arena. 3,000 consecutive victories. Waldo put on a simple shirt, revealing his body covered in bandages, and the two iron balls in his hands kept spinning. Looking at the arena, his eyes narrowed. The guy who can get 3,000 consecutive victories on the arena is naturally amazing. The others were shocked and exclaimed. 3,000. Such numbers are not ordinary. This guy on the stage looks like a strong guy, is he so powerful? Nakan, Gairam and others said one after another. Look at it first, this battle seems to be his 3,000th battle. Jiāng Liú said with a smile. Hearing this, everyone looked at the stage. Around them, there is a blank area. Seeing this group of fierce and evil, obviously not like good people, everyone ran back, with a look of fear on their faces. In particular, when Karma wielded a long knife in his hand and laughed, the audience was obviously more nervous. At this time, the host on the stage spoke up, and his voice was loud and spread throughout the arena. Then, viewers, let's wait and see. Next, there will be Cyrus's 3,000th battle. This young guy from Dressrosa will usher in his 3,000th battle. If he wins, he will also have an unprecedented 3,000 game winning streak. Oh my god, this is amazing. This is the first time such a strong man has been ushered in the bullfighting arena. His strength, his perseverance, and his will are far more than any previous fighters you have seen. Cyrus. His name will be recorded in the annals of history, and his tall image will be carved into a stone statue, revered by the latecomers. The host's words had to be said to be exciting, and the atmosphere on the scene suddenly became lively. On the arena, Cyrus raised his sword in his hand and roared in response to the crowd. It was when he was young and vigorous, this middle-aged man who later appeared on the scene is obviously enthusiastic now. Cyrus, Cyrus, Cyrus. The audience was cheering, all yelling the name. Then, please, in the 3,000 battle, the enemy of Cyrus. Ricky. He is also a powerful fighter. He has a mysterious identity. I believe this battle will never disappoint everyone. In the arena, he quickly stepped onto a person. This person was tall, holding a big sword and shield, and looked arrogant and powerful. The scene became more lively, and waves of noise swept in all directions. Waldo looked at the man on the field, his eyes slightly serious. From the outside, this guy is absolutely powerful. Wow, Captain, Cyrus' opponent, it's not easy. It looks so fierce. Guy Ram and Sebastian screamed. Cyrus will definitely win. Jangl Liú smiled. Captain, you seem to trust Cyrus very much. Waldo said. This is destiny, Waldo, like the meeting of you and me. Jangl Liú said softly. Waldo was taken aback for a moment, his eyes flickering slightly. The battle on the arena soon began, and the loud collision sound continued to be heard, and the strength of the two was obviously very terrible. However, within a few rounds, the aftermath of the collision caused cracks on the arena. The battle was fierce, and the strength of the two was almost equal. All those who watched the game held their breath. There was no cheering, only the sound of two people colliding and roaring on the stage. Even the host forgot to understand and stay there. Cyrus, your winning streak will be ended by me here. Ricky, I will become a legend today. The roar of the two people spread all over the surroundings from the station. The battle was fierce, and as time passed, both of them were more or less wounded, and blood was dripping. The winner will be divided. The spinning iron ball in Waldo's hand suddenly stopped, he said in a deep voice. At the next moment, the two figures on the stage suddenly intertwined, and everyone's eyes flashed like a flash of lightning. Tick. The blood dripped, and Ricky froze there. He looked down at the bloody mouth on his body, seeming a little dazed, and a little relieved, and then fell to the ground with a puff. Gu. Cyrus, won. An unprecedented 3,000 consecutive victories. He has become a legend in the arena. Our Cyrus has accomplished an unprecedented feat. The host roared, and the audience was even more boiling. At this moment, on the arena, the sword fighter Ricky suddenly struggled to stand up. He was about to lift his helmet, reveal his identity to Cyrus, and invite the opponent to join his army. The opponent's strength is very strong, even he can defeat it, and he has the strength as his own army commander. This Ricky is the king of Dressrosa today, King Liku. But at this moment, Jangl Liú and others on the arena suddenly got up and walked towards the arena. Sword fighter Cyrus, your strength is indeed extraordinary. Are you interested? Join my pirate group, go outside and see the wider world. Trust me, compared to the small arena here, the outside world is the bigger arena for life, and your audience will also be people from all over the world. There are stronger opponents. Soon, Jangl Liú, who came to the arena, said with a big smile. Liku Wang, who had just gotten up, was dumbfounded. Someone robbed him of someone. Chapter 56. Advertise here. Pirate. Cyrus' eyes sharpened. He looked at Jangl Liú in front of him and the people behind him, realizing that this group of people might be difficult to deal with. Moreover, the meaning of the other party's words surprised him, and invited him to join the pirate group. See the wider world outside. How? Cyrus, you who have won 3,000 consecutive victories may be good here, but in the outside world, it is only a general level of strength. It's far from the strongest. Jangl Liú said with a smile. You have the potential to be the strongest. Staying here is just wasting your talent. When Cyrus heard these words, he was very unconvinced. You said I'm in the outside world, just ordinary. The young man is naturally energetic, not to mention that he set a record of 3,000 consecutive victories in the arena. Every battle is a victory struggling between life and death. His fighting method is a powerful skill summed up in countless battles. Want to try? Jangl Liú drew the long knife around his waist and pointed it at the opponent. It only takes a moment, and you will lose. The consequence of defeat is that you need to join my pirate group. Cyrus took a deep breath, his eyes sharpened. This is the opponent's aggressive method, and he can naturally distinguish it. But such a statement is absolutely unacceptable to him. He, who just won 3,000 consecutive victories, was the most powerful moment. How could he be defeated in an instant? Cyrus, don't promise him. At this moment, King Liku on the side took off his helmet and said loudly. King Liku. Cyrus was taken aback, only then did he realize that his opponent turned out to be King Liku. You can't afford the price of defeat, and you must never be a pirate. King Liku shouted in a deep voice, looking at Jangl Liú and others with serious and guarded eyes. Jangl Liú laughed when he heard the words. King Liku, what might you have misunderstood the pirates? At least as far as I understand it, the identity of a pirate is the most free man in the world, who dares to conquer the sea, and the bravest. We pursue our dreams and live for ourselves. This kind of life is called life. These words shocked Cyrus' body slightly. 3,000 consecutive victories in the bullfighting arena, but he still found his goal in life. In this life, why does he live? Freedom, for the sake of dreams, the bravest man. How big is the outside world? The man in front of him had a wide vision before he could say this, which shocked his heart. Really, if this is the case for the pirate, it would be quite desirable. Cyrus was holding a huge sword, his eyes full of fighting spirit. It will only be more exciting than you understand and imagine. An incomparably powerful enemy, a variety of abilities, a murloc like us, and an island in the sky. Everything is something you have never seen before. Jangl Liú said, raising the long knife in his hand and setting his posture. He could see the fighting spirit from the opponent's eyes. But before that, I care more. What you say beats me in an instant. Cyrus sharpened his eyes and stared at Jangl Liú. Then I will prove it to you. Jangl Liú smiled. The next second, the two confronted each other in the arena. King Liku was anxious, but he knew that no matter what he said at this moment, Cyrus would probably not listen to him. He could only grit his teeth and be helped by the people on the side. If you fail, nothing will happen. Cyrus, you are too careless. That man is obviously not easy to deal with. Absolutely, it is different from any opponent you have ever encountered before. Waldo and others also retreated under the arena. On the stage, the two of them were ready for a duel, and the battle would end in an instant. Wow, it seems that after Cyrus won 3,000 consecutive victories, we still have a chance to see the unexpected 3,001 battle. I believe that the next battle will be equally exciting. The opponent of Cyrus is a young man. When the host saw this scene, he unexpectedly shouted again, causing a group of people in the audience to cry. The two on the stage were still confronting each other, and Cyrus' forehead oozes fine sweat. His pressure was very heavy, but Jangl Liú, on the other hand, appeared light and casual. King Liku was at the bottom, also nervous. It's still too young. You have to give your life for this. Cyrus. Suddenly, Jangl Liú said aloud. Then I will move, Cyrus. The battle is only for a moment. You have to look carefully. Cyrus' pupils contracted and he held the hilt of the great sword with both hands. I will do my best. The next second, there was a sudden gust of wind blowing in the arena. Call. In an instant, Jangl Liú's figure disappeared. Cut. Cyrus widened his eyes, vaguely saw a distorted phantom appearing before his eyes, and immediately swung his knife. Thunder Destruction Sword. When? There was a sharp clash of swords, and the two passed by. Almost no one could see the moving figure, and it was almost at its extreme. Cyrus' pupils tightened, and his sword-holding hands trembled. What a fast sword. He trembled. The light that flashed by, almost impossible to see, was almost reaching the limit. At that moment, he realized that the power gap between the two sides was in different dimensions. Puff. Falling heavily to the ground, Cyrus lost his mobility. Jangl Liú turned his back to each other, slowly closing his sword. The battle is over before you see it clearly. The host was puzzled loudly. Below, King Liku sat up in shock, and a lot of blood spewed out of the place where he was hit by the knife. Take him away, guys. Jangl Liú turned his head and grinned at Waldo and others. Now, he is ours. Chapter 57. Advertise here. Karma, Garp and the others, immediately stepped forward and lifted Cyrus up with a big laugh, while laughing loudly. Captain, you are robbing people. No, it's not a snatch, it's a bet. Cyrus is defeated, he is ours. The laughter of the crowd spread throughout the arena and stunned everyone around. Unbelievable. Cyrus, who won 3,000 consecutive victories in the bullfighting arena, lost to the entire young man in one round. Where is he sacred? No, are they pirates? They took Cyrus away. What are they going to do? The host's voice was also heard one after another at this time, first shocked, followed by dumbfounded. Jangl Liú closed the knife, and if no one walked off the arena, he naturally saw King Liku spurting blood out of excitement. But he didn't care. This was a robbing, of course he wouldn't be polite. Damn, you are pirates. Put Cyrus down. King Liku shouted loudly. He was seriously injured, but he still stood in front of Jangl Liú and others. Do you want to stop us? Jangl Liú smiled lightly. You and the soldiers behind you are probably not enough. Following King Liku's loud shout, a large number of soldiers poured into the arena, and Jangl Liú and others were about to be surrounded. The destiny of Cyrus is not to become a pirate. He has a better future, bastard. King Liku roared. The other party is a man he likes, and he even plans to marry his daughter. How could such a talent be given to a pirate like that? Fate. Jangl Liú smiled. When it comes to fate, he probably understands the direction of the world better than anyone present. The future of Cyrus will not be trapped in a small arena. Dressrosa is just a small pond. When you are here, you can't see the vastness of the outside world. King Liku, your vision is the same. Follow me, he will become an existence you can't imagine, and he will stand on the stage of the world. Speaking lightly, Jangl Liú stepped out. As he steps forward, the momentum on his body suddenly rises. Waldo's eyes condensed slightly, and he felt this powerful and domineering aura. In the air, an overbearing and violent breath suddenly oscillated out. The surging soldiers were suddenly shocked, their bodies stiffened, their eyes lost their look, and they fell to the ground one by one. King Liku was trembling all over, with a lot of sweat oozing out of his forehead. This terrifying breath rushed in, making him feel that the man in front of him was like an invincible king, the most powerful. He will dazzle the world in the near future. Right here, listen to his news. Jangl Liú stepped forward, passing by Liku Wang, and said with a faint smile. In a blink of an eye, a group of people have left the arena. But in the air, it was extremely quiet, filled with a palpitating sense of depression. King Liku struggled to raise his head and glanced around, his pupils contracted. Around the arena, in the auditorium, and in various passages, there are people who have fallen to the ground and passed out in a coma. That man, just a glance, caused such a scene. Who is he? King Liku was shocked in his heart. Jangl Liú and his group moved quickly, and they left the bullfighting arena in the blink of an eye. Blast for him, Nakan. Waldo looked down at Cyrus, admiring the strength of his body. Okay. Nakan moved immediately. Karma, Gairam, go buy some necessary things. When we are ready, we will leave here immediately. Jangl Liú ordered. The two nodded and quickly turned around. So, what are your plans next? Waldo asked with a smile. Continue to recruit crew, Jangl Liú said, and then he turned his head and said to the short man next to him. Bin Jack, have you got any useful news recently? Bin Jack has telephone bugs of various colors hanging on his body. He seems to be very knowledgeable about collecting news. Hearing this, grinned. Heard a very interesting news, Captain, you must be very interested. Jangl Liú smiled. Oh. Marine seems to have made a big move in recent days. Admiral has left naval headquarters. It seems that even Marine Marshal Kong is involved. What kind of guy will make Marine's high-end combat power come out of the nest? Bing Jack spoke with a puzzled expression. Do you know where Marine's goal is? Jangl Liú's eyes flickered and asked softly. It's in the sea not far from us. It's weird. Bing Jack still couldn't guess who it was. Really? That's fun. Jangl Liú smiled, then said aloud. Then, the next goal is this sea area. I really want to see who can make Marine such a big fan and treat it with dignity. Bin Jack was startled. Personally, I don't agree with the boss that you are colliding head-on with Marine now. Find out who this guy is as soon as possible. Bin Jack. If it's the man I think about, it's really worth a trip for us to take a little risk. Jangl Liú said again. Yes, boss. Bin Jack was stunned and nodded. Chapter 58. Jangl Liú and his party did not stay in Dressrosa for long. At dusk on the second day, after Karma and others gathered enough supplies on board and repaired the ship, they were ready to set off. Cyrus bleeds too much because of Jangl Liú's knife. He is still in a coma, but his state has stabilized. With Nakan, a master of Chinese medicine, Jangl Liú is not worried. Captain, got the news. Amidst the shouts of Karma and others, the crew was carrying supplies to the ship. At this time, Bin Jack ran over with a solemn and excited expression. What news? Jangl Liú turned his head and asked. I know who they are aiming at, treating them so solemnly. Just got the news, Marine Marshal Kong is already on his way to the destination, and a large number of Vice Admiral is waiting. Their goal is just above this sea, known as the Lonely Red, the Red Earl. Baloric Letterfield, Bing Jack said loudly, his expression full of excitement. Sure enough, it is him. Jangl Liú's eyes condensed, then smiled softly. Baroque Letterfield. In this era, he is definitely an extraordinary man. With just one person, he has the qualifications to sit on an equal footing with Whitebeard and Roger. After fighting against Marshal Marine for 3 days and 3 nights, he defeated Kong even more, until he finally met the hero Vice Admiral Garp before he was impelled down. Marine's target turned out to be him, which is so shocking, Captain. The strength of this man is like a monster. Are we really going to get involved in this war? Boss. Bing Jack asked nervously. This kind of big news, just hearing it, made him tremble and his whole body was trembling. And once you want to join such a war, you are simply dancing on the wire, and there is a danger of death everywhere. It's too risky and too exciting. This must be a rare battle that shocked the world. Bing Jack shouted again. He looked at Jangl Liú, the young captain, with contemplation on his face, but the light in his eyes became brighter and brighter. After a while, a radiance stretched over the corner of the opponent's mouth. Isn't this fun? Bin Jack. If a guy like Letterfield can join our pirate group, we can become one of the world's top pirate groups in one step. Jangl Liú burst out laughing. But, that man is notoriously arrogant and lonely. It is no less difficult to get him into the group than to get Whitebeard, Roger and others. Bing Jack said loudly. If even he can't conquer, then why should I become the number one in the world? Become the king of this world. Jangl Liú said lightly, looking down at the undulating sea, his eyes sharpened. Baloric Letterfield, an absolutely extraordinary character, able to be as famous as Whitebeard and Roger in this era, has incomparably terrifying power. In order to pull the other party into the group, it is not only necessary to overwhelm the other party in strength, but also to overwhelm the other party in spirit and belief. He still needs to think carefully about how to do it. Others are carrying supplies in full swing, and don't know what Jangl Liú is thinking. But the guest Jack at this moment was already stunned. He was shocked by the captain's thoughts, and Letterfield joined. The young captain, aren't you afraid that you won't be able to keep him down? When everything was ready, everyone boarded the ship. It's time to set sail. According to the information obtained by Bin Jack, Letterfield is now on an island named Red Island, in the sea not far from us. And he will be surrounded by Marine in the near future. Jangl Liú stood on the bow, facing the crew on board. Vardo with a smile, Jack Bin with a complicated face, and Karma and Sebastian with a look of worship, Guy Ram and others. The next thing we need to do is to set foot on this island before Marine reaches the Red Island. At this point, Jangl Liú had sharp eyes. I want to meet Letterfield first. These words uttered shocked on the deck, and the crew members who were natural in the first moment showed shock on their faces in the next second. Huh, open, are you kidding me? Meeting with Gu Gaozihong. Everyone felt incredible. They knew the meaning of the captain's words very well. In this era, in the rules of pirates, such a meeting means fighting. The encounter between the pirates, there has never been any peace and friendship. Maybe, the next person to board our ship is this Letterfield. Immediately afterwards, Jangl said again. This time, everyone thought the captain was crazy. With a force, Waldo directly crushed the iron ball in his hand. But soon, he laughed out loud. Such a crazy thing, it sounds incredible. But, I actually felt blood boiled. As expected to be the captain, I am very interested in this matter. Karma raised the long knife in his hand, laughing and roaring. What the captain has to do, it will definitely come true. But at this moment, the letter bird flew by on the bow of the ship, fluttering and dropping small sheets of paper. Bing Jack took it and looked down. The next second, his whole body was shaken and his pupils contracted. Ship, Captain, Bounty, 1.5 billion, Chapter 59. Advertise here. The face of the character on the reward order is Jangl with a pair of knives slung around his waist and a faint smile on his face. I don't know when the Marine Intelligence Department secretly photographed it, but Jangl above was photographed with great temperament. There is a touch of hockey in the indifference, and his eyes are sharp and daunting. The bottom is marked with a long series of numbers. The first two are 15 and the back is 0. The number used to be 1.5 billion. It is marked in red font. This person is extremely dangerous, life or death is not a matter. Everyone on the ship got excited after a moment, and they leaned over to look at them. 1.5 billion. The captain went up by 1.3 billion in one fell swoop. In an instant, I became one of the world's top pirates and became famous. Ha 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 ha, that's amazing. Everyone started talking in a rush. Jangl also laughed. The figure of 1.5 billion was unexpected, but he quickly took it for granted. Everything has just begun. Looking at the sea ahead, he muttered. Waldo, your bounty has also risen, from 500 million to 700 million. Karma 350 million. Sister, she also has a bounty, 150 million. Our bounty has floated. It can be said that Marine has fine-tuned the bounty for all of us. Black flag. Now, all the members of Haichi are well-known big people in the world, ha ha ha. Bing Jack flipped through the reward orders one by one and said with a big smile. The whole ship is discussing this bounty growth event. For the pirates, there is nothing more exciting than this. Being offered a high reward, they will not be afraid of the chase that it will bring. This is the day when the blood is licked on the edge of the knife. On the contrary, the huge reward can make them famous. For the pirates, bounty is the face, reputation, status, and also money. Get ready to go. As for the celebration banquet. Jangl suddenly said. He glanced at Cyrus in a coma, grinning. When Cyrus wakes up, we will hold it together. We welcome the new crew, but we have to do something. Waldo and others laughed. Yes, Captain. The black flag fluttered for a second, hunting and shaking in the sea breeze, slowly leaving the port and heading towards the vast sea. At the same time, in the palace of Dressrosa, His Majesty. An anxious shout sounded from outside the palace. King Liku raised his head, with a white bandage wrapped around him like a mummy. He frowned when he heard the sound. The talent he fancied was robbed, and now is the time to be in a bad mood. Your Majesty, that group, I know who it is. Soon, the chief guard rushed in with a stack of rewards in his hands. When Liku Wang heard the words, his eyes condensed and his expression became serious. The young man defeated Cyrus with a single blow, and the situation that caused a large number of guards to lose their combat effectiveness was a long time in his mind. Unmatched powerful strength, even incomprehensible. The opponent's hockey even left a shadow in his heart, lingering. What's your identity? King Liku asked in a deep voice. Black Flag Pirates, Shimotsuki Great Swordsman Jiāng Liú. The man's bounty, yes. Taking a deep breath, the chief guard yelled loudly, sweat on his forehead. 1.5 billion. King Liku's pupils contracted and his whole body froze there. 1.5 billion. Such a guy. King Liku didn't know what to say. The existence that can be offered a reward of 1.5 billion by the world government must be because he cannot compete. The coercion brought by such a big man, a big pirate, is unimaginable. Boom. After swallowing 2 saliva, King Liku leaned back and sighed a long time later. Fancy Cyrus, I really don't know whether it was his disaster or luck. Although he is a king, he knows exactly how big the outside world is. The 1.5 billion big pirates, especially the young of the other party, will definitely be unimaginable in the future. And Cyrus follows such a character. If the opponent is a vicious person, it will definitely not end well. But if it is the opposite, with the courage and tolerance shown by the opponent, Cyrus, as the other party said at that time, will reach an unimaginable level. Time passed slowly. When Cyrus woke up from his coma, it was already noon on the 4th day. Opening his hazy eyes, he was still a little confused. Where is this place? What he saw were strange faces, and when he looked up, Cyrus was very confused. Are you awake? Soon, a gentle and clear voice sounded. Then, Karma, Garam, banquet. The banquet has begun. Cyrus was even more confused. Banquet? What kind of banquet? Ha 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 ha. Of course it's a welcome party, kid. Forgot. In the bullfighting arena, you lost to the captain. Now you are a member of our Black Flag Pirates. Waldo laughed. Welcome to my banquet, bullfighting arena. Cyrus looked down at the bandage on his body and remembered. His pupils contracted and he looked at the man standing in front of him with 2 knives slung around his waist. Yes, I lost to you. The man who defeated me with a single blow. Slowly standing up, Cyrus looked at the person opposite, feeling mixed. Different environments, different faces, looking far away, the endless sea and the vast sky. At this moment, his heart seemed to let go. From this moment on, your arena. It will be the whole sea, Cyrus. Can you still maintain your winning streak and set a new record? Jangl Liú smiled and stretched out his hand. Cyrus's complexion was slightly condensed, and soon calmed down. As soon as he grasped the opponent's hand, he stood up. Yes, what you said, I am looking forward to it. In addition to being complicated and unfamiliar, a touch of expectation, excitement and curiosity in my heart also rose rapidly at this moment. New world. It seems pretty good too. Chapter 60. The banquet soon began. The Black Flag pirate ship was full of excitement. Waldo and others were very good at making the atmosphere. Some of the crew played the violin and some played exciting music. In addition, an altar of fine wine was moved onto the deck, and Cyrus, who had just woke up, was immediately pulled over by Jangl Liú. In addition to welcoming you to join us, this banquet also means to celebrate the increase in rewards offered by everyone. So, Cyrus, let go of the celebration. Drink big mouthfuls of wine, big mouthfuls of meat. Today is a day worthy of joy. On the deck, Jangl Liú sat cross-legged, holding a large glass of wine in his hand, and said with a big smile. Everyone shouted, and the atmosphere was very warm. Cyrus, Cyrus, Cyrus. Karma and others soon yelled, calling the newly joined crew members to have a drink. After this cup, you will be our new brother from today, kid. Valdo said loudly. Cyrus seemed to be somewhat uncomfortable with this passionate scene, but soon a smile appeared on his face. The pirate was originally a vicious existence in his heart. After the gambling contract was completed, the opponent almost snatched himself away, which also proved the correctness of his idea. But at this moment, the candid and undisguised smile on everyone's face in front of him gave him another feeling. The men living in the sea seemed to have a bold and broad temperament in their bones, with courage that ordinary people do not possess. Taking the wine glass handed by Nakan next to him, Cyrus took a deep breath and drank the glass in everyone's eyes. Since I am defeated, then I will follow all your orders in the future. Jangl Liú laughed and waved his hand. You say this as if you were my slave. But brothers. The people on the boat were all booing. Next, the scene became more enthusiastic, and Cyrus quickly adapted to it, and after a few glasses of wine, he had a lively conversation with everyone. Really, Waldo, were you saved by the captain? Marine, are you so courageous? Face-to-face confrontation with 6 warships, it sounds incredible. What? You said the captain is offering a reward of 1.5 billion. Such a high amount. Do I have a chance to be rewarded by Marine? Cyrus was blushing. Listening to the crew's words, he was surprised and shocked, and at the same time, a heart of expectation was born in his heart. The life of the pirate seemed to be different from what he thought, causing his calm heart to be full of waves. The day passed quickly, and the evening came, and the people on the boat lay down all the way, grunting loudly. By the next morning, everyone gradually became sober. Jangl Liú touched the aching back of his head and grinned as he looked at Cyrus lying down in a large font next to him. The other party drank to the end yesterday, as if going crazy, toasting to everyone, this kind of customs clearance method, but there is a great demand for the amount of alcohol. Sure enough, after a lap, Cyrus fell to the sky, causing everyone to laugh. Captain, if the speed is fast enough, we expect to reach the sea near Red Island this afternoon. Bin Jack holds a phone worm on his body, searching for information at all times. He is in a very good state. As one of the few people on the ship who thinks about problems with his brain, Bin Jack advocates solving problems with intelligence. Yes. Jangl Liú raised his eyebrows and smiled at the corners of his mouth. It seems that he will be able to meet the legendary Letterfield soon. It is very likely that we will meet Marine when we enter this sea area. Bing Jack said again. Marine, this time I have worked hard to capture Letterfield. Empty, maybe we'll arrive in 2 days. After talking about this, Bin Jack's face was serious again. Captain, are you really planning to fight a guy like Letterfield? Jangl Liú showed a puzzled expression. Fight against him. After a pause, he smiled again. I think that many things may be solved without having to fight each other. Let him feel our sincerity, that's it. This is an incomprehensible answer. Bin Jack scratched his forehead and glanced at his captain strangely. Go and wake them all up. If you go to sleep, if you meet Marine, throw these guys into the sea. Jangl Liú smiled. Ha 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 ha, follow the captain's order. Bing Jack also laughed, and he could naturally hear the jokes from the other side. After a while, Waldo, Cyrus and others opened their eyes one by one. When he woke up, Cyrus sat cross-legged, lost in thought. Whether it's swordsmanship or drinking, I'm still far from it. The sea is more vast than a bullfighting arena. I need to be stronger. His eyes gradually became firm, and he abruptly got up and walked towards Jangl Liú. When he reached the captain, Cyrus bends down deeply and cried out. Captain. Jangl Liú showed a stunned expression. What are you doing? I want to ask you to teach me to become stronger. Cyrus said loudly. For a moment, Jangl Liú laughed quickly. In terms of kendo, I can guide you a little bit. If you are stronger, I will be very happy too. Cyrus cheered up. Thank you, Captain. Chapter 61. Advertise here. Jangl Liú saw the battle in the bullfight arena very clearly, and he also had a general understanding of Cyrus's strength. The opponent has now mastered observation hockey, but armament hockey has still touched it, and the swordsmanship that has been honed through 3,000 battles has reached an extraordinary level. It can be said that Cyrus's swordsmanship is not weak at all. As long as you can master armament hockey, the opponent's destructive power will inevitably rise to a higher level, and it will be able to play a better role in the face of those with fruit abilities. The two sides quickly sat down to discuss the topic of strength improvement, and other people on the ship also participated, such as Waldo and others. The growth of strength and becoming stronger are more dependent on oneself, but in terms of cultivation, it can be referred to, such as hockey's mastery. On the grand line, hockey has become popular in the second half, with a little bit of strength, and they all have this ability. But in Jangl Liú's pirate group, hockey is still not universal. If all the members can awaken hockey, the improvement of the overall strength is conceivable. And then, Jangl Liú's behavior shocked the crew and convinced him even more. For the pirates, strength is the most important thing, and hockey and devil fruit, which represent extraordinary strength, are naturally also the most important. This kind of thing that represents the strength of the strong can easily not be taught. Many pirates are awakening armament hockey or observation hockey in the temper of life and death. Jangl Liú personally guided them. Such a heart and courage made everyone feel deeply admired. Armament hockey, observation hockey, conqueror's hockey. These three types of hockey are the best means of life saving for us. Also, yes. After a pause, Jangl Liú's eyes condensed slightly. Devil fruit. Everyone nodded, feeling a little excited in their hearts. If there is a chance to get devil fruit in the future, it will be obvious to the strength of our pirate group. Jangl Liú smiled. Captain, about devil fruit, maybe we can get it from other pirate groups. Of course, this requires a little risk. Bing Jack said suddenly. Oh, Bin Jack, do you have news about devil fruit? Jangl Liú said in a daze. There are some clues recently, but the main focus is on Letterfield and Marine. I didn't pay attention. It seems to be a paramesha fruit. Bing Jack said. Paramesha. Jangl Liú was thoughtful, then smiled. You can pay attention later. If it works, we can act. Bing Jack nodded. Afterwards, everyone accepted Jangl Liú's guidance and began to explore hockey. The pirates who can mix in the second half are not weak in physical fitness and experience. The main factors that determine everyone's combat effectiveness are experience, combat effectiveness, physical fitness, talent, and so on. In addition, Waldo, your Momo fruit ability, still needs to be developed. The fruit can be awakened. Jangl Liú said this sentence in a condensed voice, which also shocked Bardo's whole body. Awakening. Yes, after being awakened, the paramesha fruit can greatly increase its original power, and even radiate to the surrounding things you touch, achieving super destructive power. And if your Momo fruit awakens, it will break through the upper limit, allowing you to have more powerful destructive power. Waldo took a deep breath. It turns out that my fruiting ability can continue to improve. I will definitely develop him to the extreme. The crew benefited a lot from a brief exchange of strength, and they also admired the captain's profound knowledge. The most important thing is that the other party's heart and courage can tell them frankly about such precious things. How can such a captain make people disrespect? Nakan, you are familiar with Chinese medicine. If you can master the ability of a herb fruit, you can foresee the improvement of medical skills. Jangl Liú kept saying constructive words, causing everyone to nod their heads. Soon, time passed, and it was the afternoon in a blink of an eye. Call out. Suddenly, a sharp whistling sound came, and after everyone was taken aback, they all stood up. It's Marine, we are already close to the waters of Red Island. Bin Jack held the telescope and said aloud. The number is not too large, only 3 warships. There is a vice admiral. Soon, the guest Jack reported the other party's information. Jangl Liú smiled. Don't worry about them, just keep going on our route. Yes. Guy Ram at the helm shouted Kaido. There was still some distance between the two sides, and the shell was just in front of the pirate ship, and it did not affect them. After this gun, the opposing warship was silent. At the same time, on the warship. It's the Black Flag. Naval Headquarters. Just recently, a group of Shimotsuki Jiāng Liú issued a reward of 1.5 billion. Damn, what are these people doing here? Marine Vice Admiral's complexion is ugly, and fine sweat oozes from his forehead. He is responsible for observing the conditions in the surrounding waters to ensure that there will be no problems with this action against Letterfield. But the arrival of the Haichi gang was indeed unexpected for them. Don't rush to shoot, we are not opponents of this group of guys. Vice Admiral shouted again. As soon as the voice fell, a huge pitch-black cannonball on the opposite side bombarded them in front of them, splashing a large amount of water, stirring up big waves, and causing the warship to tremble violently. It's that fellow Waldo. Prepare to retreat, taking advantage of the fact that neither side can attack each other. Reported to the headquarters immediately and found traces of the Black Flag Gang. Chapter 62. Advertise here. The warship shook violently, the waves slapped, and the hull tilted into an incredible angle, and the Marines grabbed the objects nearby. Retreat! Retreat! Almost instantaneously, the bow of the warship quickly turned and drove quickly to one side. On the Black Flag pirate ship, Waldo held the small pitch-black cannonball in his hand and smiled at the corner of his mouth. Momo fruit can multiply objects by 100-fold, and when the shells are amplified and bombarded out, the power of the explosion is naturally extremely great. Good job, Waldo. Jangl Liú smiled. Cyrus' pupils contracted, and he was shocked when he looked at the man who drank with him yesterday. The small iron ball thrown out of the opponent's hand unexpectedly possessed such a huge power, it shook violently the sea with a radius of 100 meters. A man offering a bounty of 700 million yuan. It's amazing. So how strong is the captain who defeated his own? The pirate ship slowly moved forward, and the warship had already moved away quickly to one side, and did not collide with them head-on. Marine has noticed our whereabouts, we must be careful next. Bing Jack said. Get to the Red Island first. Jangl Liú said. At almost the same time, on the Grand Line, on the fast-moving warship. Have you found any traces of the Black Flag pirate group? Appearing in the waters near Red Island, what are they going to do there? Kong Shen said, his eyes sharpened. He still attached great importance to the Black Flag pirate group. This new group of people has the potential to shake the world in the next time. Our goal is Letterfield, we can't control them for the time being. But you still have to beware, ask for help from nearby stations, and strengthen the defense of sea power. I will issue combat orders to Garp and Sengoku. If you encounter an enemy, don't engage in combat with them. If possible, this time, it would be the best opportunity to kill Letterfield and Black Flag at one go. Kong's eyes sharpened, and he said in a deep voice. Then he looked at the rolling sea ahead. In this magnificent era, strong people emerge in endlessly, but as Martial Marine, he is fearless. Enemies can be eliminated one by one. How long will it take to reach the waters of Red Island? Shuttle turned and asked Major Marine behind him. We expect to arrive early tomorrow morning. The Major Kaido immediately. On the other side, in the afternoon, Jangl Liú and others, the pirate boat docked along the coast of Red Island. The golden beach was covered with neat coconut trees. After everyone got off the boat, they could even see crabs crawling across the beach, covered with shells everywhere. Letterfield, is it here? Jangl Liú murmured. Passing through the coconut tree, he faintly heard a lively sound coming. This is a transit point and a holiday island for pirates. Of course, the person who runs the vacation place is also a pirate. Bing Jack said. Go in and take a look. Jangl Liú said. Everyone quickly passed through the coconut grove, followed the trail, and arrived at the resort on the island. The sun, the beach, the cocktail party, the beauty, soon appeared. Everything seems to be golden. The wonderful music came out tactfully. They saw many people scattered along the beach, and bursts of laughter floated to their ears. Is this the place for the pirates to vacation? Cyrus said in amazement. On the beach, many people have fierce faces, with weapons in their hands or waists, but the atmosphere on the whole seems very harmonious. The pirate in the vacation place is Bandon, who has a bounty of 850 million, so it can be considered as able to calm the frequent passers-by. Bing Jack said again. 850 million. Not weak. Jangl Liú said. Letterfield, it should be here. He may be found on the beach, in the bars in the town. Captain, I still think that we must treat such a guy with caution. Bing Jack said solemnly. A man like Letterfield is not joking. If one is not good, there will be disaster. Since you have come to the holiday island, then you should take them to have a good rest. As for Letterfield, I have my own plan. Jangl Liú said softly. He took the lead to leave, first strolling along the coast. After a lap, no trace of the other party was found. Instead, a woman with an exquisite figure and delicate face leaned forward. Handsome man, it seems that you are not here for a holiday. The woman said with a grin. The smell of marine on you is too strong. Jangl Liú glanced at the other person and said lightly. The woman's expression changed slightly, and then she laughed again. Marine. This is a holiday island where pirates gather. Which marine would be so bold and dare to come here to go wild? Yes. Jangl Liú smiled. Of course, and now, on this island, there are extraordinary large pirates residing. Even if Marine Admiral arrives, I'm afraid I won't be pleased. The woman said again. Jangl Liú narrowed his eyes and grinned suddenly. The big pirate, are you talking about Letterfield? Tell me where he is. The woman's expression changed, her eyes sharpened, but soon, she softened again. That adult, in the bar on the island, is tasting wine alone. If you want to see him, hurry up. He is not so easy to find. Chapter 63. Advertise here. Hearing this, Jangl Liú looked up at the woman, squinted and smiled. Tell me your name, female marine. The smile on the woman's face disappeared, and it was obvious that the other party had seen through her disguised identity, but until now she still didn't know how she exposed. The captain of the Black Flag Pirates, Shimotsuki Jiāng Liú, has a reward of 1.5 billion. Sure enough, he is a dangerous guy. My name is Guillaume. Jangl Liú nodded, turned around, walked towards the bar on the island town, raised his hand and waved. The next time I run into you in the ocean, I will spare your life. Ben as it is to thank you for telling me this information. Such remarks are undoubtedly very annoying, and Jiayuan almost drew his sword. But soon, she gritted her teeth to calm down and walked away quickly. After finding a secluded place, she dialed the phone worm. Sister Crane, I found Jangl on the Red Island. He is preparing to contact Letterfield, and he has already seen my identity. The phone worm's voice became more serious. Protect yourself and avoid contact with the other party. Jangl intends to contact Letterfield. This is very important information. If necessary, you must leave Red Island immediately. Yes. Guillaume nodded. Afterwards, the phone worm hung up. Guillaume bit his lip, looked at the direction leading to the street in the town, and finally gritted his teeth and followed. Jangl is looking for Letterfield. What the hell is it going to do? The curiosity in his heart overcomes calmness at this moment, and Guillaume has a keen interest in this pirate who sees through him as soon as he meets. Moreover, the other party doesn't even have any nostalgia for his beauty. Is she so despised? The town of Hongdao is also lively, but compared to the coast, it is naturally inferior. On both sides of the street, there are all kinds of playthings, fruits, and clothes with obvious beach style. Jangl soon found the bar mentioned by Guillaume. For this female marine, he could see through it at a glance, only because the other party's waist was too straight, and the heroic aura between his brows could not be concealed at all. In addition, Conquerors, seeing and hearing the color, has a keen sense of the body's breath. There is no such smell on the pirate. But in all fairness, the other person is very beautiful and has a great body. Stepping into the bar, there is no noisy sound, but a quiet and strange tension. After taking a glance, Jangl found that there were not a lot of people in this bar, and they were pirates with all kinds of hideous appearances. However, everyone was shocked by the powerful aura of the man sitting alone in the corner, wearing a plum red shirt, blood-colored trousers, gold-rimmed black-soled leather shoes, and his hair tied in 2 braids hanging over his shoulders. No one dared to make a sound, and no one dared to show the usual indulgence. This man is Barloric Letterfield. With his own power, a man who can sit on an equal footing with the contemporary Big Three, powerful and resembling a monster, is famous in the entire sea. He didn't do anything. There was a bottle of rum and 2 glasses on the table. His expression was very indifferent. However, Jangl noticed that the pirate sitting at the table next to him had sweat oozing out of his forehead, and his whole body was trembling slightly. And this is just because of the man's reputation. When he stepped into the bar, everyone raised their heads subconsciously. When they saw a strange young man, they withdrew their eyes. Only a few people recognized him. His expression changed slightly, and his pupils contracted. Here is another terrible guy. Damn, what's going on today? I just want to have a good drink. How come I encounter this kind of thing one after another? This guy Letterfield came in suddenly, and people couldn't respond completely. I wanted to go out, but I was afraid of disturbing the other person's interest. That's a dead end. The pirates trembled in their hearts, and felt very unlucky. Soon, they noticed that the young man who stepped into the bar had a clear goal. He came to Letterfield in a few steps and sat down. Everyone's eyes widened, and they were extremely surprised. Someone dared to sit across from Letterfield. Isn't this kid afraid of death? Jangl's actions made Letterfield also surprised. He raised his head and looked at each other. You are the first person to sit across from me in many years. The voice is a bit vicissitudes, but also very emotional. With that, Letterfield scanned the surroundings. Many people don't even have the courage to stand next to me. Jangl smiled. That's really a regrettable life. Letterfield was taken aback for a moment, but he didn't expect that the other party would say his own words, as if taunting him. I always feel that if a person lives too lonely, his world will seem meaningless. Soon, the man opposite said again. No one has spoken to me like this for a long time. You are bold. Letterfield sighed. I just came here. They didn't even have the courage to move. I can even hear them complaining, fearing, and shaking. Jangl smiled, then picked up the bottle on the table and filled himself with a glass of wine. Give me a drink, and soon, save your life. Letterfield laughed, shook his head, and when he looked at him again, his eyes sharpened. This guy is very presumptuous. Chapter 64. Advertise here. This feeling, I don't know how many years have passed, which makes Letterfield feel a little strange. The other party is very familiar with pouring wine for himself, then lifted it up, wanting to clink glasses by himself. Then he said that he would save his life. This is ridiculous. I don't think such a thing will happen. But in the end, after frowning slightly, Leidfeld still did not choose to shoot. He felt something weird from the other person, listening to the sound of everything, it seemed to disappear at this moment. Unable to perceive the other person's thoughts, this young man was more mysterious than he thought, but it aroused his interest. After hesitating, Leidfeld raised his glass and touched it lightly. Very glad to know your friend. Jangl chuckled lightly and drank the drink. Friend. It seems to be a very distant word. Letterfield said lightly, somewhat noncommittal on the face. Some things can be done by one person, the so-called human heart. Shaking his head, he didn't say much, but he thought the person opposite should understand. Perhaps, it's just that you haven't met a partner who is walking with you, but the sea is vast, and everything will happen here. Jangl Liú smiled. Everyone will meet a partner who can stay with him for a lifetime. Letterfield was expressionless, put down the wine glass in his hand, raised his head and looked at the opponent quietly. He fell silent, but an inexplicable coercion spread out. The whole bar was quieter, and the people around were shaking, with sweat on their foreheads. Damn, this kid makes him angry. Where's the idiot? What friends do you talk to this guy? Are you crazy? Is he tired of life? Jangl Liú also noticed the change in atmosphere, his eyes narrowed slightly, and he looked at each other quietly. The two looked at each other, the bar became heavy, and the domineering atmosphere rose. After 3 breaths, an accident appeared in Letterfield's eyes, and he suddenly asked. What's your name? Shimotsuki Jiāng Liú. Jangl Liú said. Man full of hockey, you are qualified to talk to me. Letterfield said. At this time, the overbearing aura in the bar was shaking, and even the cups placed on the surrounding tables could be seen with fine cracks. Puff. Immediately after, the pirates fell heavily on the table, their eyes pale and lost consciousness. Bah, Conqueror's confrontation. These two monsters. The pirate desperately insisted, shaking his teeth and said, his face flushed. I'm here specifically for you, Mr. Letterfield. Jangl Liú said with a smile. While speaking, the hockey around his body became thicker, and even the surrounding tabletops were cracked, and the space seemed to be slightly distorted. Oh, for what? Letterfield raised his eyebrows. He was not surprised that the other party knew him, because there were so many people in this world who knew him. I want to invite you to join my pirate group. Be my partner. Jangl Liú said sincerely. Letterfield was stunned. He almost thought he had heard him wrong, and grinned after a moment. Are you kidding me? I seldom make jokes, and I never make jokes when it comes to dealing with my partners. Jangl Liú said seriously. After a pause, he spoke again. Your Excellency, now being alone is definitely not what you hoped for when you broke into the sea with your ideals in your arms back then. Is the dream still there? How much have you changed as time goes by? When the pirate who used to sing and laugh uncontrollably arrived, did the shock, curiosity, hope, and dream in your eyes disappear? I can be sure, Letterfield, your dream can never be realized by one person. Jangl Liú's words are calm, but generous and powerful. Letterfield's pupils contracted and stared at Jangl Liú. It seemed that before his eyes, the optimistic and open-minded pirates who used to be when he was a teenager, temporarily stopped on the shore, talked with him cordially, and told him about the magical things on the sea, which made his eyes bright and colorful. This is everything he once dreamed of, but after going to sea, everything he saw subverted his dream and made him become the self he is today. This world is very big, there are many unknowns, you also have the qualifications to have partners. Isn't it? The voice came again, and Letterfield's face suddenly turned cold. Do you think you know me well? In the next second, he grasped the umbrella sword placed aside. Ignorance and arrogance will ruin you. The indifferent words echoed, and then, a cold light flashed. The desktop in front of Jangl Liú suddenly cracked, and the fierce energy cut towards him. Almost at the same time, his right hand also held the long knife around his waist, and suddenly pulled the knife out of its sheath. When the sound of the golden iron came out, and the powerful shock wave turned into ripples, sweeping away in all directions, and in a short time, the entire bar exploded. Boom. The pirates who passed out in a coma, the bar table and the walls, shattered one after another, burst directly into the open, smoke was everywhere, and a clear gap appeared on the ground. When the smoke and dust dissipated, the ripples disappeared, and 2 standing figures appeared on the spot, holding long knives, staring at each other. It seems that I came prepared. Letterfield said. If you want to conquer a guy like you and let you become my partner, how can you be unprepared? Jangl Liú grinned. Then let me see your temperament. Letterfield had sharp eyes. Chapter 65. Advertise here. Crack wipe. The 2 knives continued to collide slightly, making a harsh sound. The terrifying aura spread out to the surroundings almost instantly. The small bar was directly shattered by the aftermath of the slashing of the 2. The pirates who were sitting in it were rushed out one by one and fell to the ground. On the street, the original lively atmosphere suddenly changed, and everyone looked at it with a changed expression. It's Letterfield. Who is he fighting with? Retreat quickly. If such a monster erupts, the entire island will not be enough for him to play wild. A sound of horror came out, and people ran away. In the ruins, the 2 are still facing each other, they are both single-handed, but the competition of strength is invisibly carried out. Letterfield's face was sharp, but his eyes flashed with memories from time to time. Jangl Liú's words are not useless at all for him. Thinking back that year, when the pirate named No Song Brook arrived, the Rumba pirates brought him the light of his dreams, making him a natural yearning for partners, optimistic and open-minded pirates. But when I walked to this sea, I found that everything was different. He didn't find such a pirate. What I hear is all ugly, disgusting and filthy. He has long given up on the pursuit of everything and his partners, and the long-term loneliness makes him rely on his own power. To this day, this man came to him. In a posture different from any pirates in the past, invite him to join the opposing pirate group. The corners of Letterfield's mouth suddenly curled up, and he gave an unexplained smile. Yes, then look at your temperament. In the next second, his body flickered suddenly and disappeared in front of Jangl Liú almost instantly, incredibly fast. Jangl Liú turned around, swiping the long knife in his hand to one side. When it was another clash, a blast of shock waves, frantically rippling in all directions, tearing up everything that was blocking. Big trees, gardens, houses, all shattered in the aftermath of this battle. The two engaged in extremely fast close combat, and the two knives continued to collide in the void, and Letterfield turned into a red shadow. The more he fought, the more surprised he was, and the fighting spirit in his eyes gradually emerged. Interesting. It's been a long time since I met someone who can fight with me like this. Jangl Liú grinned. A guy like you, living alone, is too lonely. You should have a trusted partner. The long knife swung, piercing the void, and the emission hockey bloomed, sweeping the blade, and the powerful force shook the space at this moment, causing Letterfield's pupils to shrink. He dodged the blow for a moment. The long knife swung in the air and paused 10 centimeters above the ground, but the ground did not split. However, a second later, below the surface, it exploded and a huge chasm burst open, extending towards the distance. The sharp slash rushed straight ahead, shattering everything on the way, until it extended 2 or 3 kilometers and reached the beach before it stopped, causing the pirates to panic. Are you talking about you? The umbrella sword in Letterfield's hand paused, and it stabbed out. Boom. The void was pierced, Jangl Liú's long knife was raised horizontally and blocked in front of him. The powerful piercing force knocked him out and cut 100 meters on the ground before stopping. There is no doubt that this very penetrating stab, if it falls on the body, it will instantly be a blood hole. Jangl Liú brandished a long knife and grinned. The sharp slash tore a gap in the ground on one side. Of course it's me. Only a guy like me can become your Letterfield companion, a brother who depends on life and death. I was sent by fate to end your lonely life. Taking steps with both feet, Jangl Liú stepped towards each other, with unruly eyes in his eyes. I will change your life. Amidst the laughter, Jangl Liú leapt high and slashed at the opponent from a high altitude. The light of the knife meandered, pulling out a brilliant arc. Roar. Vaguely, a dragon roar roared out, and a powerful aura rose up at this moment, causing Letterfield, who was standing on the ground, to squint, and then chuckled. Such a blow. Did you come with the intention of killing me? When the words fell, the umbrella sword in his hand suddenly stabbed. Boom. The two weapons collided, and the air was distorted at this moment, as if a dazzling light burst out, the wind raged and rushed towards the surroundings, and the terrible shock wave rolled further away. A man like you, of course, must first conquer you in strength. Letterfield. Jangl Liú laughed and said, closing the knife with his right hand. He was in the air. With a twist of his waist, the long knife made a circle and swung away at the opponent again. The latter raised his sword to block it again, and his body was drawn back, and a trace was drawn on the ground. Then, I admit that you have a good power. Looking down, his right hand trembling slightly, Letterfield's eyes became solemn. The strength and breadth of the opponent is really like a mad dragon flying in the sky, indescribably overbearing and wild. Chapter 66. Advertise here. Two slender figures stood facing each other, they both held a knife in one hand and stared at each other. The street was turned into rubble due to their brief confrontation, and there were messy knife marks everywhere on the ground, becoming devastated. The breeze blew across the bodies of the two of them, their robes swayed between them, and their silhouettes suddenly disappeared again. Boom. Suddenly, the violent collision began again, one after another huge shock waves, the deafening impact made the complexion of people in the distance greatly changed. This battle was gradually noticed by the people on the Red Island. Behind the broken wall not far away, Jiayuan widened his eyes and stared in shock at the young man wielding a long knife in the battle against Letterfield. He can stand up against Letterfield. Is it here to find Letterfield to fight him? The other party's handsome appearance even seemed a little delicate, but the strength displayed at the moment made her feel shocked. Definitely the leading swordsman in the world. Marshal Kong hasn't arrived yet, and such a big battle broke out here first. This is really a big disruption to Marine's combat plan. At the same time, she turned her head and looked at the pirates hiding in the dark, and she also clearly saw the shock and excitement on their faces. Who is that guy? He can fight Letterfield. It won't be an unknown person. In this sea, it must have its own reputation. He seems to be the latest dark horse, named Shimotsuki Jiāng Liú, offering a reward of 1.5 billion yuan. What a crazy guy. He chose to challenge Letterfield here. The pirates communicated loudly, looking at the young man holding the knife in the field, with bright light in their eyes. There is no doubt that this is a rare battle. The dark horse among the pirates challenged Letterfield, who had already become famous, and made countless people fearful, and it depends on the situation, not even letting go. This is unimaginable. Shimotsuki Jiāng Liú, your swordsmanship has reached an incredible level. Really powerful. In the confrontation with the opponent, Letterfield gradually realized the power of Jiāng Liú, and he exclaimed. But the power of the umbrella sword in his hand is getting bigger and bigger. The strong wind was roaring, the void was cut apart, and layers of ripples appeared. Jiāng Liú laughed loudly and slammed a single blow. Under this blow, both of them were shocked, and then they were shaken back by dozens of meters by the powerful reaction force. Boom. In the middle of their long knife confrontation, a deep pit was blasted, and the strong wind swept everywhere. Jiāng Liú became solemn and went all out to fight, and did not take this big pirate who was famous all over the world for his loneliness. This means that the opponent's strength is unfathomable and still has not shown its full strength. Call. Taking a deep breath, Jangl Liú's eyes showed a wild smile. His other hand hit the long knife on the other side of his waist, and he grinned. It seems that if you want to conquer a man like you must use all your strength. Letterfield was slightly surprised and glanced at his other knife. So you are a double-sword swordsman. Just using a single sword, there is such a power, you amaze me. I am a little interested in you. Leaning forward slightly, Letterfield's eyes became serious. The opponent is definitely not an existence that can be overcome by being arrogant or underestimating the enemy. Suddenly, call out. A ray of light flashed, and Letterfield's figure still disappeared. When he reappeared, he was already in front of Jangl Liú, his waist twisted, and a long knife in his hand pulled a ray of light. In front of this extreme speed, Jangl Liú was too late to draw another knife, but his reaction was also very quick, his eyes condensed, and the long sword met him. Slash dragon strike. The whole body's breath changed drastically at this moment, and a giant dragon rose up behind him, followed by a flash of sword light, and the giant dragon was cut in half. At the same time, a sound of shock was also heard, and Letterfield was directly blasted off by the knife, marking a long distance on the ground. A fast knife flow that takes speed to the limit. Letterfield squinted. More than that, Jangl Liú spoke softly, and suddenly he scabbed the long knife in his hand. The figure leans forward slightly, and his eyes are fierce at this moment. In the next second, his feet moved and ran towards each other. What I'm good at is to surpass the limit, with extreme speed. Da 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 da. The footsteps were getting faster and faster, and Jangl Liú's figure gradually pulled into a purple-blue phantom. Above and behind his head, a purple-blue dragon roared and struggled out, revealing its ferociousness and cruelty. Lightning creaked, raging in the void. Letterfield's expression became solemn, and he squeezed the umbrella sword in his hand. Want to use this knife to decide the outcome? Really an anxious man. Afterwards, his body shape was suddenly distorted and disappeared. Come on then. In front of Jangl Liú, a figure suddenly appeared, and the umbrella sword turned into a series of spinning, twisted lights, winding countless lines. When the man in red with two braids greeted him, he drew his sword without hesitation. Choke. Howl. The sound of coming out of the body was like a dragon chant, and it was accompanied by a dragon roar. The gale blows, and the dragon dances with long swords, splitting mountains and rivers. The two figures passed by and stood still. Crack. The crisp voice came out later, and the eyes of the people hiding in the dark were filled with shock and fear. They saw that the streets of Hongdao were cut open. Turned into countless pieces. Chapter 67. Advertise here. Crack wipe. The ground, walls, and countless buildings were twisted, split, and crashed down at this moment, stirring up dust and smoke in the sky. Everything is shaking, seemingly afraid because of the powerful power of these two people. Go on, just kidding. Their duel, if it continues, will it destroy the entire island? It's outrageous, these two guys. The pirates looked terrified, swallowing their saliva, their legs trembling. On the ground with knife marks everywhere, Jangl Liú and Letterfield stood with their backs to each other. The two of them didn't speak for a while, their eyes looked solemn at this moment, very solemn and solemn. Jangl Liú slowly put the long knife into its sheath, his eyes suddenly relaxed. As expected, Letterfield can catch a blow like this from me. As soon as his voice fell, a corner of his shirt suddenly split, and a piece of cloth fluttered and fell to the ground. If you want to fight me with all your strength, you should pull out another knife. Letterfield lowered his head and said softly. His red suit was also torn apart, revealing the checkered shirt inside. I came here to invite you to join my pirate ship, not to kill you. Jangl Liú slowly turned around and said with a chuckle. Letterfield also put his umbrella sword into its sheath, turned around, and stared at him. You are such a weird fellow, this is the first time I have seen you. Ha 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 ha, isn't it? Jangl Liú burst out laughing. So, what's your response? Letterfield watched the opponent carefully, and his ability to listen to the sound of everything was also fully utilized, but to his surprise, he couldn't penetrate the opponent's thoughts. With keen perception, he can feel the kindness of the opponent, as warm as the sun, vaguely, making him seem to have seen the scene of the first meeting with the Rumba pirates that year. At this moment, a group of people approached them. The captain said that he would not use battle to solve the problem, but in the end, did the war go? The deep voice came into the ears of the two of them. With the sound of footsteps, Jangl Liú saw that Waldo and others were coming quickly. Such a guy, we can't let your arrogant person face it. He is too dangerous, Captain. Yes, even if it is Letterfield, since you have chosen to fight with Captain, we will never be afraid. Voices sounded, and Letterfield was immediately surrounded by Waldo and others. Slightly startled, Letterfield looked at Jangl Liú's expression and smiled. It seems that your crew cares about you, but they don't seem to be very clear about your strength. Jangl Liú chuckled lightly and looked to the other side. Cyrus, Waldo, Karma, Tianyushi, Nakan, Gyram and others are all on guard at this moment, holding weapons and watching Letterfield in the field. Facing such a famous big pirate, they were obviously a little nervous, with fine sweat oozing from their foreheads. They are afraid of me, but because of you, they still choose to fight with me. Letterfield turned around, and the powerful pressure on his body swept towards Waldo and others. The terrifying aura caused all the people to tremble slightly, but soon they returned to normal, and their eyes burned with a sense of war. Letterfield, our captain, not a guy like you, can be bullied. Waldo growled. Yes. Letterfield raised his eyebrows and suddenly laughed. Ha 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 ha. Interesting, very interesting. Then he looked at Jangl Liú again. These guys have great potential. Is this your pirate group? Jangl Liú nodded. Yes. They are all my crew members and my partners, brothers. Letterfield nodded. A touch of melancholy appeared in his eyes. He shook his head and suddenly lifted his steps. Because of the same goal, the same dream, the people gathered together make me a little envious. A few steps later, he passed Jangl Liú. When he walked behind Jangl Liú, Letterfield suddenly laughed in a low voice. If it is true as you said before, if one day saves my life, I might consider joining your pirate ship. After a pause, he shook his head and smiled again, taking another step. But this matter, I'm afraid it will never be possible. After speaking, Letterfield stepped away and disappeared in the eyes of everyone in a blink of an eye. When Waldo and the others saw the other party disappear, they all quietly breathed a sigh of relief. But soon, they looked at Jangl Liú, and there was a touch of concern and anger in their eyes. Isn't it good to go around? It turned out to be a fight with this guy. He's Letterfield. What should we do if you have a problem? What about Black Flag? Boss, you are not injured, are you? Everyone screamed, and Bin Jack even climbed on his shoulder angrily and knocked him with a small fist. It can be seen that these guys are indeed angry because of his actions. But soon, they calmed down. He will join our pirate group soon. The words Jangl Liú said with a chuckle stunned everyone. Such affirmative words surprised Waldo and others at the same time, but also revealed a touch of expectation. Chapter 68. Advertise here. The captain is so sure. Is there any reason why Letterfield joined us? Cyrus asked curiously. Walking out of Dressrosa, seeing and hearing on the Red Island, talking with his companions, all made him realize the vastness of this world. And the short-lived side with Letterfield just now shocked his heart. The strength of the other's aura and the vastness of the majesty made him almost untenable. In the world, there are such characters. And such a guy has the possibility of becoming his companion. Marine will launch an attack on Red Island soon, and Letterfield is their first goal. Marshal Marine, Sora, on his way to here now. Bing Jack said suddenly. The captain is so sure that Letterfield will join us, it should be because of this. Then, he turned to Jangl Liú solemnly. So, in your judgment, Captain, do you think that Letterfield will lose in the next clash with Marine? Jangl Liú grinned. As expected of Jack the guest. I am sure that Letterfield will lose to Marine. Bin Jack's eyes flickered, and then he whispered. But now we are on this island, and I'm afraid it has caught Marine's sight. It is very likely that Marine will also include us in their strike coverage. Jangl Liú nodded when he heard the words, and after a moment of contemplation, so, we need to hide ourselves. From now on, until Marine launches an attack on Letterfield, we will all disappear here. Disappear? How to disappear? Waldo was puzzled. Jangl Liú smiled slightly when he heard the words, and turned to look at Bin Jack. Is there any clue about that devil fruit? After discussing that day, Bin Jack paid close attention to devil fruit's clues. It's in the hands of Bardoran, the captain of the Bardo pirates. Bin Jack stunned Kaido. Is it far from us? How many days voyage? Jangl Liú asked again. 1 Hiashi. Bin Jack said. Jangl Liú squinted his eyes and smiled. Time, it's still too late. Then, since Letterfield has met, now, we will leave Red Island and head to the Baduo pirates. A devil fruit, don't do it for nothing. Jangl Liú's words stunned everyone. The captain had just arrived at Red Island, and after fighting with Letterfield, he was about to leave here. The goal is devil fruit. Yes, Captain. Bing Jack seemed to understand. He smiled in his eyes and shouted loudly. Soon after a while, the pirates on Red Island were surprised to find that the great swordsman who fought Letterfield once again drove away from the port of Red Island, and disappeared after a while. On the beach, when Letterfield heard the news, his eyes narrowed slightly, but he quickly recovered his calm. Looking at the undulating sea ahead, the cheerful laughter of beach pirates and the sound of music came in his ears. In front of his eyes, memories of the past emerged one by one. Haha, Letterfield, do you want to go to sea too? Do you want to see the fat times of female pirates? Then we can be together, but we have to wait for you to grow up. Even if you don't meet us, it's okay, the sea is so big, you will always find someone who accepts you, has the same dream as you, appreciates you, and trusts your companions. Set sail for dreams, this is a pirate's romance. The distant voice echoed in his ears, and Letterfield's complexion became complicated. The arrival of Jangl Liú made his heart fluctuate. After so many years, someone has invited me, Lord Brooke. The corners of his mouth suddenly curled up, and he laughed out rare. But I refused. If he is really sincere, he should appear in front of me again. After all, lousy is Letterfield. Time passed slowly, and in a blink of an eye came the next morning. The streets of the town were destroyed because of the battle between the two. Some pirates chose to go out to sea, and some were relocation sites, and they continued to celebrate on the beach. Nothing seems to have changed. But at 9:15 in the morning of the second day, the pirates who had fun suddenly saw that not far away, black spots appeared quickly on the sea level and arrived at an extremely fast speed, revealing their true faces. Warship. It's a marine warship. Quickly, tell everyone. Marine is coming. The intruding warship made the pirates present panic. Shoo, hoo, hoo. In the next second, the harsh whistling sound cut through the void, and the pitch-black shells formed a barrage, covering the shore. Boom 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 boom. The explosion sounded everywhere, and the pirates who had no time to retreat were suddenly shattered by shells. In the blink of an eye, the cheerful beach turned into a sea of blood. The flame was burning, and the invisible sense of suffocation spread to the hearts of everyone present. Boom 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 boom. The sound of the explosion came out again, and the pirates turned their heads, their complexions greatly changed. The port is destroyed. Captain, our ship was sunk. There is no way to escape here. Damn Marine, what are they going to do? At the same time, aboard the Marine warship, empty arms embraced and stood there. Since Jangl Liú and the others are gone, let's concentrate on dealing with Letterfield. No one can stop us anymore. The faint voice was uttered, and his eyes suddenly became sharp. Today, he must be arrested and brought to justice. Chapter 69. Advertise here. In a blink of an eye, the book was already 120,000 words, and it was time for it to be put on the shelves. I took a little more time in the middle, because I was really too busy, stayed in the hospital for a week, and quickly picked up after I got back. Thank you very much for your support and follow-up, thank you for your flowers, evaluation votes, and rewards. These are all vital to the new book. Regarding the book, the author will work hard to ensure the quality. If it is updated, he will work hard to do it after it is on the shelves. I also hope that everyone, give this book a subscription, this is the fundamental motivation for the author to update. To tell everyone, the author lives in a poor valley. Since childhood, he dreamed of being able to walk out of the village to see if the cattle and sheep in the city were bigger than those in the village. In the small mountain village, people with dreams are trapped. As long as everyone contributes a subscription, maybe today next year, I will be able to walk out of the small mountain village and see the outside world and see the scenery in the alleys and lanes, whether it is different and exciting. In a word, please subscribe for support. I will do my best for the codeword career, and I will die. Chapter 70. Advertise here. The harbor was destroyed by artillery shells, and a large number of pirate ships burned with raging flames, and an atmosphere of sinking, tense, desperate quietly filled the entire Red Island without interest. Facing the approaching marine, the pirates were horrified. They trembled all over, but they were helpless. The ship was destroyed and they could not escape the island. Boom 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 boom. The sky-shaking shelling sound was still resounding, blasting everywhere, and the coconut trees burned into flames under the bombardment of the shells. The pirates rushed for their lives, screaming and desperate crying from their mouths. On the beach, the color of blood and the red of the flame reflect each other, intertwined, adding a tense and anxious breath. The sudden marine was something that no one had thought of. Captain Bandon, what should I do? Marine is here, there are more than a dozen warships. Furthermore, it seems that the current Marshal Marine is headed by Kong. The trembling sound rang in the Red Island, and the pirate wearing the captain's hat and the revolver slung around his waist clenched his fists. One after another, what the hell do these guys take my Bandon for? Yesterday it was Jangl Liú and Letterfield. Today even Marshal Marine is here to join in the fun. Bandon roared in a low voice, flames bursting from his angry eyes. What are they going to do? Facing the captain's anger, the pirate was also a little afraid. After swallowing his saliva, he gritted his teeth and said, Marine is about to come in soon, Captain, according to our news, this time, their target should be the big pirate, Letterfield. What should we do now? Captain, you can make a decision quickly. The crew's words calmed Bandon. Bandon fell silent, his eyes flickered, then looked up after a moment. You said that Marine's goal is Letterfield. Yes, their warships are also heading towards the place where Letterfield is. On the side where we are, there are not many people. The pirate said quickly. What a bad guy, how much bad luck has brought lousy. The streets I painstakingly built and the cocktail beach I managed are all ruined today, damn it. Bandon roared, then he yelled sharply. Notify all crew members, immediately pull out the ship docked on the north shore, and we all evacuate. Hearing this, the pirate's eyes lit up. Yes, Captain. Red Island is divided into north and south. The cocktail beach is on the south bank, where a large number of pirates gather, while the north bank is deserted. Marine is a group of day-to-day people, there must be a gap in the labor management turf. Bandon scolded as he walked, very angry. Red Island, South Bank. A large number of Marine warships have approached the port, and a series of serious and cold Marine soldiers rushed down from the warship. Boom boom boom. Soon, the sound of guns rang, and the pirates fell to the ground one by one. The fierce melee combat began, but Marine clearly had the advantage and was fully prepared. The Marine, as a group, faced the scattered, dizzy pirates that had been bombarded by artillery fire, and it was completely crushed. The flame was burning, and the Red Island really became red. Letterfield sat there quietly, holding his umbrella sword in his hand, looking at the chaotic surroundings, unmoved. Blood and flames reflected in his eyes, leaving his expression unchanged. He seemed to be waiting for something, and he seemed to be thinking about something. Gradually, a large number of pirates came to him and surrounded him in a fan shape. When the leading colonel saw him, his expression suddenly changed. Found the target and surrounded it. Stay on the spot. Don't launch an attack without authorization. He is very dangerous, and it is not something your vanguard can handle. A deep voice came from the phone worm. Yes, Master Marshal. The colonel responded quickly. Then, sweat oozes from his forehead, and he keeps gritting his teeth while looking at Leadfield not far away. Don't attack, Marine. Because of fear, stop moving forward. This does not seem to be Marine's elite style. Leadfield slowly raised his head and said coldly. The colonel's eyes condensed and he was on guard, but he was not provoked by the opponent. If you don't do it, I'm not welcome. The indifferent words made the colonel's pupils shrink. In the next second, Leadfield took a step forward, his eyes staring suddenly. In the void, an invisible ripple spreads, sweeping towards the front Marine. The Marines' eyes widened, revealing a touch of confusion, and then their eyes turned pale, and they fell slowly to the ground, unconscious. Ask for flowers. Bah, Conqueror's hockey. The colonel gritted his teeth as he looked at Leadfield who had come before him. He is still insisting, in front of this domineering aura, not to let himself fall, but he has reached the limit. If you want to deal with me, let Admiral or Sora come by yourself. You guys, you are too tender. It's useless to come. The faint words came to the colonel's ears, and he fell softly to the ground, and all he saw was the back of Leadfield leaving. The two sides are not in the same dimension at all, and he doesn't even have the ability to intercept each other. Gradually walking to the shore, Leadfield stopped. 0. He raised his head and looked at the densely packed front, led by elite Marines such as Vice Admiral, Rear Admiral, and school-level officers, with a sharp look in his eyes. It's a big scene. Everyone of Marine, I'm so embarrassed to be working so hard for me. The faint words spread to the audience with the sea breeze. The aura on Leadfield suddenly rose, and his eyes glared forward. Conqueror's hockey rushed out. A group of figures fell softly to the ground, and those who stood barely supported them, relying on their will to keep themselves from falling to the ground. If you deal with me, let your boss come out. I'm very curious, who will you send out to deal with me this time? Sengoku, Zephyr, or Garp? Leadfield chopped forward, and a figure walked up on the bow of the warship. The presence of people surprised him a bit and made him grin out a sneer. It turned out to be Marshal Marine, Sora. It really surprised me. Taking a few steps away, looking at the Marines who fell on the ground, his eyes moved slightly, and then he jumped off the boat. To deal with a big pirate like you, of course I personally took the initiative. Leadfield squeezed the umbrella sword tightly and grinned. Come on then. At the same time, hiding behind a hill not far away, a figure dialed the phone worm. Captain, Marine arrives, Marshal Marine is here. Taking a breath, he said in a deep voice. The war is about to begin. And. Chapter 71. Advertise here. The horrible breath slammed together in the next second, and ripples appeared in the air, radiating to the surrounding circles in circles. Guy Ram, who was holding the phone worm, his hands trembled. Their breath is too strong. Captain, I may not last long. Garam gritted his teeth. He is here, very close to the battlefield, and naturally more dangerous. The captain and the others left the Red Island yesterday, but he stayed and was responsible for observing the situation here and keeping them informed. After all, the captain said that their goal is Leadfield. Such a big pirate must find a way to earn his own boat and let the other party be their partner. Retreat back, Gyram. Spying on intelligence is done while ensuring your own safety. Guy Ram was relieved by the captain's gentle words. Yes, when he was about to step back, he saw that not far in front, the man in red had already collided with Marshal Marine. Boom. With a blast, the shore of the beach seemed to be blown up, and the whole island was shaking at this moment. They started fighting. Guy Ram whispered to the phone worm. I'm going to run, Captain, their aftermath can kill me. After speaking, Guy Ram turned his head and ran. Who knows how much this battle will affect, such a fierce attack, no one else can blend into it. Boom 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 boom. After staying away, Garam found a hidden place and hid. Now, there are a lot of Marines on the island, and they are catching the scattered pirates. Captain, hurry up. In this case, I was caught, so I'm over. Shaking his body, Guy Ram tightened his clothes tightly. In the ears, the deafening sound was still resounding. It was the battle between Leadfield and Sora, and every collision made the whole island tremble. These strong men are really monsters. Garam gritted his teeth. When will I have such strength? At the same time, above the sea, below the flying black flag. Jangl hung up the phone, smiled at the corner of his mouth, and looked at the 3 pirate ships with skull flags on the sea ahead. The battle on Red Island has begun. As the Bardo pirates in front. Bing Jack put down his binoculars and nodded. Yes, they are the ones who look at the banner. Get rid of them quickly, get the devil fruit, and save our new companion. Jangl laughed. Yes. The crew shouted loudly. The sea breeze blows, the black flag hunts and shakes, and the speed of the pirate ship instantly increases. As they moved, the Baduo pirate group not far away had also spotted them. Captain, a pirate group is coming. The flag is pitch black. It seems to be a new dark horse, the Black Flag Pirates. When they saw the pirate flag, the pirates were immediately shocked. When the Baduo pirates heard the words, Badalin's eyes flickered. Black Flag Pirates. Yes, their captain, Shimotsuki Jiāng Liú is offering a bounty of 1.5 billion, of which Waldo's bounty is 700 million. Captain, these guys are not easy to deal with. The cadres of the Baduo pirate group are all nervous. 1.5 billion, 700 million, plus the other 2 to 3 billion crew members, the configuration of this black flag is not inferior to those of the big pirates today. What should I do, Captain? The cadres asked. Don't worry, see what they are going to do. Badalin said solemnly. He appeared to be very steady, thinking in his heart that even if the big pirates who rewarded 1.5 billion in rewards, he couldn't do anything to them. The whole ship calmed down, but as the Black Flag pirate ship approached, they gradually felt that something was wrong. Call out. A sharp sound of breaking through the air suddenly sounded, and then there was a loud explosion. Badalin looked back abruptly and saw that the pirate ship on his side was blown up to debris, and the crew on board disappeared. Asshole! He roared angrily. He turned his head suddenly, but soon there was a whistling sound that came again. Badalin was stunned, and the other ship was cut in half with a knife, and the screams of the crew made him a little messy. For a while, he didn't even have time to reflect on what happened. The 2 ships were solved by the other's 2 breaths. Captain, here they are. At this moment, a trembling voice sounded. When he turned around, he saw a burly man, holding a huge sword, swinging out a sword. Boom. The cadres standing in the front were immediately swept away, hit the mast, vomiting blood, and lost their combat effectiveness. You fellow. Who is it again? Badalin roared. My name is Cyrus, the great swordsman of the Black Flag Pirates. Cyrus said in a deep voice holding a big sword. Boom. Immediately afterwards, there was another violent impact. Badalin shook his body and almost couldn't stand firmly. Just as he was about to yell at him, there were a few more figures on the deck. The Bardo Pirates, Captain Bardoran. The headed man, with 2 long knives slung around his waist, smiled on his face, glanced around, and stared at him. An invisible and powerful breath immediately made Badalin tremble, and his heart was terrified. The big pirate who was offering a reward of 1.5 billion, Shimotsuki Jiāng Liú. Swallowing, Badalin suppressed the anger in his heart. Arrogant words in front of this kind of guy, it seems that he has only one dead end. Next to the opponent, there is Waldo, with a bounty of 700 million. And this arrogant swordsman is obviously not easy to provoke. Master Jiāng Liú, what's the matter? You can find me directly, you don't have to. Squeezing a smile, Badalin's forehead was sweaty. I ask, you answer. As long as you are obedient, you can spare your life. After all, we are also in a hurry. Jiāng Liú said with a faint smile. Yes, my lord, I will try my best to meet your requirements. Badalin nodded quickly. Did you get a devil fruit recently? Jiāng Liú said. Devil fruit. Badalin was stunned, and then he came to understand. The guy in front of him turned out to be devil fruit. I did get a devil fruit, but sir, are you interested in this kind of thing? Eating it makes humans unable to swim. For us pirates, this will be a fatal weakness. Badalin rode. Where is it? Jiāng Liú's eyes lit up and he continued to ask. It's in my hand. In addition, I also have a devil fruit illustrated book, which can also be given to adults. As long as adults spare us, these things are of no importance. Badalin quickly said. After a while, a devil fruit was sent up. Jiāng Liú was a little surprised, but he didn't expect it to go so smoothly. With a grin, Jiāng Liú and others returned to the boat. So, next, go back to Red Island. There are new companions waiting for us. Chapter 72. Advertise here. The black flag quickly drove away in the eyes of Badalin and others. When it gradually turned into a black spot, Badalin clenched his fists, his heart dripping with blood. He lost a precious devil fruit, the secret treasure of the sea. Damn it, that's devil fruit. Even if you don't eat it, sell it, you will have 100 million Baileys. Damn black flag, damn Shimotsuki Jiāng Liú, I hate my inferior strength, such a secret treasure can only be handed over. There were tears in both eyes of Badalin, and he felt wronged and uncomfortable. Captain, don't be too sad, devil fruit gave it to them, we can still find it. Yes, you need to know what our nickname is. We are treasure hunting Bado. The cadres expressed their comfort one after another. Wiping away his tears, Badalin inflated himself, his eyes firm. You are right, we can look for it again. I have a lot of treasure maps here. Next, our goal is them. There must be a better treasure. The crew suddenly became excited. Yes, the captain is right. On the other side, the black flag pirate ship. 18 opening the box, looking at the spiral fruit lying quietly in it, Jiāng Liú has a curious look in his eyes. This was the first time he saw this unique secret treasure in the pirate world. As long as he eats it, he will be able to possess powerful power. I have to say that it is indeed incredible. Eating devil fruit will make people lose the ability to swim, and the body will be afraid of the sea. As long as they fall into the water, they will become weak. But compared to some fruits, the power gained is insignificant. For example, Whitebeard, Marine Admiral, etc., their strengths all play the role of devil fruit. Although, whether it is strong or not is more about oneself. For example, Letterfield has great strength when he does not eat the fruit. But if you can get a good fruiting ability, and you're even more powerful, then why not do it? Comprehensively powerful is really powerful. Jangl Liú said softly. Captain, we compared the devil fruit illustration book sent by Badalin and found this devil fruit. It should be a quality fruit. As long as you eat it, you will have the ability to change your own mass or touch the mass of objects. Bin Jack looked at devil fruit's picture book and squinted. This fruit doesn't seem very good. Change the quality. Waldo said softly. Jangl Liú laughed. He took out the fruit from the box, his eyes twinkling. Perhaps you are wrong, Waldo, this fruit has the power not inferior to Whitebeard shock fruit. Change the quality. It is similar to changing gravity. If this fruit is developed by the strong, and the upper limit of the mass is increased, one punch may be able to hit the weight of a meteorite when it hits the ground. The destructive power will be extraordinary. And if the mass is compressed infinitely, after reaching a certain coefficient, it can even be poked slightly, creating a black hole. Not inferior to shock fruit. Waldo was stunned, and the crew were all stunned. Perhaps many fruits seem to be really wasteful, but, more importantly, the development of fruits is also divided into people. With that said, Jangl Liú picked up this quality fruit. Being able to control quality, in a sense, is equivalent to controlling gravity. In battle, it can play a vital role. If you lighten or become heavier in an instant, you will increase your strength. Crack. Without any hesitation, Jangl Liú bit it off in one bite. The crew looked at their captain and were a little surprised. The other party didn't hesitate at all and just ate the fruit like this. The captain is really casual, he even ate this devil fruit directly. The secret treasure of the sea, you will not be able to swim after eating it. This is a nightmare for a pirate who has dreams. He doesn't seem to care about the weaknesses devil fruit brings. Everyone was a little surprised, but also surprised at the courage of their captain. How do you feel, Captain? Bing Jack asked nervously. This kind of inexplicable fruit, they are very afraid that after eating it, there will be side effects. Vomit. Jangl Liú stretched out his hand, and just about to speak, he stooped and let out a retching. It's worse than shit. After a long while, he gritted his teeth and said. Of course, shit is not so terrible. Waldo answered. When everyone turned to look at him, his expression changed. Don't get me wrong, I didn't mean that. It's just that I have eaten this fruit, it is indeed a shadow in my life. Everyone's faces flushed red, and they nodded. We understand. After Jangl Liú slowed down, he laughed after feeling the power surging out of him. The power of devil fruit. Interesting, very interesting. He stood in the bow position and drew the long knife in his hand. He narrowed his eyes slightly, and said softly in his mouth. Weight increase, 100 tons. In an instant, the bow of the Black Flag pirate ship began to collapse rapidly, Jangl Liú's complexion changed slightly, and then he controlled his strength. The bow creaked, but it did not sink further. The quality has changed externally, but I don't feel it myself. I can still control the quality perfectly so that it does not affect the outside world. Afterwards, he gently swung a knife towards the sea in front of him. The violent wind swept out, slashed out, and instantly cut a huge gap in the sea ahead. The increase in strength is obvious. With this cut, I haven't used hockey yet. Jangl Liú laughed. This is the power of devil fruit, which really surprised him. 1,000 tons of weight increase. 2,000 tons of weight increase. 3,000 tons, 5,000 tons, 6,000 tons. Later, he began to try this devil fruit, the ultimate power he could master. After 8,000 tons, he felt a bottleneck. This also means that he can make himself or the objects in contact with him instantly reach a mass of 8,000 tons without changing his own properties. With his power, he wielded a weight of 8,000 tons, and the destructive power it caused was so powerful that it was unimaginable. And this, it's just that he has just begun to touch this fruit. With the familiarity with quality fruits, it will definitely become more terrifying. Quality is power. Have you ever been hit by a 10,000-ton long knife? Moreover, this is just to strengthen the mass of the object, and what happens when the mass is weakened is not very clear. Jangl Liú laughed. In the future, he can also say such things in the second grade. Captain, there is news from Guy Ram that the battle is still going on. This is already the second day of Letterfield's battle with the sky. After a while, Bing Jack said. Okay, speed it up. Everyone is ready to save our new companion. Next, there may be a big battle. Jangl Liú said with a smile. Chapter 73. Advertise here. Time passed quietly, and the Black Flag pirate ship headed towards the Red Island. On the way to Hongdao, Jangl Liú was still thinking about how to develop this quality fruit. The quality is increasing, and the weight reaches 10,000 tons, 1 million tons, and 10 million tons. Every blow will fall like a hill, and it will have extraordinary destructive power. Even if you can awaken the fruit and increase the weight of the objects you touch, you can sink an island in an instant. The negative growth in quality makes the original 10 million tons of items as light as a feather, and can be made to fly out with the click of a finger. Such an attack is equally terrifying. You can also reduce your own weight, reduce the air resistance to a minimum in an instant, and your speed will double. Quality fruits, if developed well, then the power must be infinite. Not at all inferior to the power of shock fruit. Jangl Liú clenched his fists and smiled in his eyes. Think about it. With development, every punch is hundreds of tons, thousands of tons, or even tens of thousands of tons of strength. How many people can resist this kind of strength? The strength of the fruit is related to its familiarity and its strength. In other words, the stronger the person, the quicker it is to show the original power of this fruit. With Jangl Liú's current strength, it is difficult for him to predict the extent to which he can grasp the quality fruits before reaching the Red Island. In a blink of an eye, this day changed from day to day and night. The coast of Red Island. Boom. The deafening impact is still resounding, and the entire coast is full of cracks, the hills are shattered, and the dust is everywhere. Sora, with your strength, wanting to defeat me alone is wishful thinking. Letterfield's voice came. Boy, this battle hasn't ended yet, and you're lying about the result. You're too anxious. Kong Shen took a breath and shouted in a deep voice. The opponent is the world's top pirate, with amazing combat power. He chose to face off against the opponent alone, which is naturally difficult. But he doesn't doubt his power. Who is he? He is Martial Marine. Also, can you escape the blockade I set up? Exactly. Above this ocean, who can you rely on? Who will come to save you? The empty words made Letterfield's pupils shrink. His eyes were sharper. Sen Han. But before him, a young, smiling face flashed. Then you don't need to worry about it. With a faint spit, Letterfield's figure suddenly disappeared. Boom. In an instant, the two of them fought again, but the dripping sweat could tell that the state of their bodies was gradually approaching the limit. Not far away, Guy Ram hid in Yamanaka, a cube made by himself. Call. It's really a monster. It's been 2 days and 2 nights, won't these two people get tired? But from this point of view, Letterfield should be able to hold on until the captain and them arrive. Whispering in a low voice, he secretly glanced out again. There are many black shadows on the sea, and the marine above them is waiting patiently. They are all waiting for Letterfield to defeat. Marine, don't know our existence. His eyes flickered, and he paid attention to Letterfield's state again. Perhaps, this battle, I can come in handy. The sound of the war was almost continuously passed into his ears, the Red Island roared like thunder, and the ground did not break apart. Guy Ram hides well, and he keeps communicating with his captain at all times. In a blink of an eye, it was the morning of the 3rd day. Sora, you have reached your limit. This battle seems to be my victory. Letterfield was dripping blood, and his body was shaking. Confronting a strong man like Sora, he naturally couldn't retreat completely. But in this battle, he won. As expected of Letterfield, you are such a monster. Kong said with a trembling voice. On his body, every muscle was trembling and sore, it was difficult to even lift it, and the wounds on his body were countless. You may have defeated me, but you have lost all your life here. After saying this, he fell to the ground with a puff. Letterfield let out a long breath, walked a few steps forward, and sat down on the rock, holding an umbrella sword in his right hand, looking towards the shore. A dog's head warship is slowly approaching ashore. After seeing the middle-aged man with black hair and the Chinese character face appearing in the bow position, Letterfield's pupils contracted, but he soon recovered his calm. Garp. This man is the hero Vice Admiral Garp. After the defeat of Sora, it was the heroes of Marine who arrived. This also made Letterfield feel helpless, but unwilling. More than people, he did lose to the other side. It's not easy to be able to defeat Sora in a difficult battle. Let's have another Garp, and he knows the next ending very well in his heart. Hurry up, look at Marshal Sora, capture Letterfield. Garp Vice Admiral is here too, this battle, we are bound to win. The sound of dense footsteps sounded, and a large number of Marine was surging in thinking of him, and at the same time, there was the man with the national character face. Quote. Letterfield, your future is over here. Quote. Garp quickly stood in front of him and said in a deep voice. Marine, all are incompetent, do you want to win with more? This victory will make you feel happy. Letterfield stood up and pointed his umbrella sword at Garp. Justice can only win. Garp said coldly. Hee, come on, let me see how your so-called justice will prevail. Letterfield's eyes sharpened. After being free, even if there is another Garp, so what? In the next second, both figures moved. The umbrella sword collided with the iron fist, making a crash. But Garp was in his peak state, and his strength was astonishing and terrifying. After a few rounds, Letterfield was thrown out with a punch, marking a long distance on the ground. You are alone and badly injured again. That's it, Letterfield. Garp stepped up and shouted in a deep voice. No money. Letterfield spit out a mouthful of blood and lay on the ground, looking at the blue sky. Are you alone? What if I have a companion now? What will it be like? He said softly in his heart. He struggled to get up again. But there was a sharp pain from all over his body, making him groan. In this state, he might not be able to avoid the next attack. Has it ended? I lost to lonely faint. Whispering softly, he saw Garp disappear in front of him again. Closing his eyes, Letterfield gave up. But at the next moment, he suddenly felt that he was being pulled away suddenly, avoiding a fierce attack. Opening his eyes, a man with dumbbells on his back emerged, caught in his eyes, breathing heavily. He is not alone. Garp. The man faced the marine hero Garp and roared loudly. Chapter 74. Advertise here. You are. Letterfield was stunned. He didn't expect that at this moment, someone would come to rescue him. Hearing the sound, Guy Ram turned his head. His forehead was full of sweat because of tension, and his expression looked a little stiff, but he still squeezed out a smile. Black Flag Pirates combatant and temporary helmsman, Garp. According to the captain's order, I am here to meet you. Letterfield was startled, his expression complicated. Black Flag Pirates. Yes, when he fought Jangl Liú, this man was also a man who plucked up the courage to fight himself. Unexpectedly, at this time, he would appear in front of him. It surprised me a bit. Did you have an accomplice in Letterfield? Garp's voice came. Guy Ram turned his head abruptly, trembling nervously. With his strength, it was too reluctant to face a world-class powerhouse like Garp. He can save Letterfield once, but can he take the next frontal attack? Garp, if you want to attack Letterfield, just step on my body. Get up the courage, Guy Ram yelled. Interesting guy, you shouldn't be an unnamed person, please report your name. Garp smiled. He stepped forward, each step putting tremendous pressure on Garp. Gyram, fighter of the Black Flag Pirates. Guy Ram yelled. Black Flag, no wonder your captain will become the largest group of dark horses in the near future. With a crew like you, I won't be surprised what will happen in the future. What are you doing to protect Letterfield? Garp stopped, wondering. The captain said that he is the new member of our pirate group to join in the future, and of course he can't give it to you here. Guy Ram said loudly. This sentence stunned Garp and Letterfield. Letterfield, would a guy like you choose to join the pirates? Garp thoughtfully. Guy Ram in front of him, he can easily solve it, but he is more related to Letterfield's choice. This will determine what kind of life this man will have in the future. If you can have a group of partners, for me, even life can be ignored. After a pause, a smile appeared on Letterfield's face, and he looked up at the sky. There seemed to be tears welling up in the eye sockets. So, what if you add them? Garp looked solemn and became serious. This is really good news for you, but for us marine, it is a disaster. His eyes became sharp, and Garp tilted slightly. So, I will be here to solve both of you. Garp felt the other party's determination and became more nervous. He slammed the ground. Boom. The ground shook for an instant, and countless squares rushed towards the sky, turning into a wall, covering in front of them. Run. Without any hesitation, Guy Ram grabbed Letterfield and wanted to escape from here. But at this moment, there was a bang behind him, and the cube shattered. Garp's figure appeared on the top of his head, his face was gloomy, his right fist was clenched, and he swung his fist towards Garp. Stay here. Garam's face changed drastically, and Letterfield's pupils contracted. This punch is completely unavoidable. The horrible fist pressure wiped the scalp of the two of them, and Guy Ram's hair became frantic, and there was a touch of fear on his face. It's over. The gap is too big, he can't stop the opponent's blow at all. At this moment, a figure suddenly shuttled and came behind them. Choke. There was a sound of unsheathing like a dragon, and the long sword shone brightly in the sun, accurately blocking the iron fist. Boom. There was a low collision sound, and Guy Ram pulled Letterfield to roll out, but the punch was firmly blocked in the air. Gyram, the few seconds your courage has won has given us a new partner. Good job. With gentleness, laughter and serious voice sounded. Garp turned around abruptly, and excitement emerged from his face. Captain. And us. Waldo and others stepped forward and stood behind Jangl Liú, firmly blocking Garp and Letterfield behind them. Waldo, Sebastian, Sister Shi, Nakan, Brother Karma, Brother Bin Jack. You are all here. Garp shouted, moving tears from his eyes. In the scene just now, he was almost scared to pee, thinking he was going to die. The ups and downs of life are really exciting. Letterfield's eyes lit up at this moment. The arrival of this group of people filled his heart with strange feelings. It is moved or excited. The dream that was once a young man seems to be reawakened at this moment, so that he can see his life. Maybe there will be another way to go. Jangl Liú. Garp stared at the person who suddenly appeared in front of him, with a dignified look on his face. At that moment, even he did not see how the opponent came here and took his blow. Bullying a seriously injured person is not in your heroism, Garp Vice Admiral. Jangl Liú grinned. He withdrew back, staring at the black-haired Garp in front of him. Compared with the gray hair seen in the anime, Garp is now in his prime, both in character and strength, like a beast, very frightening. As his friend, I might not feel it yet, but when standing opposite him, this fierce breath is extremely strong. Black Flag Pirates, Shimotsuki Jiāng Liú. In that case, your goal is Letterfield. Garp said in a deep voice, looking at Vardo, Cyrus and others behind him. Everyone seems to be a difficult guy to deal with. At this moment, a large number of Marines also rushed up in an instant, standing behind Garp, looking at Jangl Liú with a guard. The atmosphere is extremely tense in an instant, and the battle is on the verge of breaking out. In order to avoid the loss of both parties, let me take Letterfield, how about? Jangl Liú smiled softly. Garp's eyes sharpened, his fists clenched. Do you think I'm the guy who will let you go? You all have to stay here today. With a loud shout, he was about to launch an attack. But at this moment, Jangl Liú's eyes suddenly stared. Conqueror's haki started, and then, with a wave of the long knife, it cut behind him. Boom. The ground cracked, and the entire Red Island was divided into two parts by this knife, dividing him, Garp, Marine, Waldo, Letterfield, etc., into two sides, and the middle is rapidly surging out. Seawater. All members of the Black Flag Pirates group follow the order. Leave here with Letterfield. Staring at Garp, Jangl Liú said slowly again. I will meet you later. A few seconds later, the black flag fluttered, and Waldo and the group gritted their teeth, picked up Letterfield and evacuated quickly. Chapter 75. Advertise here. What a terrible kid, do you want to stop us alone and buy time for your crew? Garp looked at Jangl Liú with solemn eyes, and sighed softly. Crossing Jangl Liú, you can see behind it, the surging sea water is rapidly dividing the island that was split in half. Not only was it the power to open the Red Island in a single fight, but also because the opponent stayed alone to resist Marine's terrible courage. In this world, there are a few people who can do such a thing so decisively. Garp Vice Admiral, my crew also have their own things to do. I'll stay and have tea with you, isn't it okay? Jangl Liú said with a smile. He lifted the long knife in his hand, and he carried it on his shoulder. The power of the quality fruit was just revealed by him, and in conjunction with his original slash, it actually split Red Island in half. This strength is not inferior to shock fruit, and it also gives him the courage and confidence to fight against Marine. At the same time, the Black Flag pirate ship was on board. Hurry up! Bing Jack shouted. The crew quickly uploaded, then set sail. The Black Flag hunted and trembled, and soon sailed away from the coast of the Red Island. Everyone looked at Jangl Liú, who was facing Garp along the shore, with seriousness and tension on their faces. Resist the legendary hero Garp alone, Captain, what will happen to him? Guy Ram said nervously. Behind him, Nakan was checking Letterfield's injury and doing emergency treatment. Don't worry, our captain is not an impulsive guy. His knife was not only showing Marine his power, but also telling us. Waldo's eyes condensed, and a smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. Don't worry, leave it to me. Hearing this, the crew members were relieved and relaxed. That knife really scared me, it's an island. One knife almost split the Red Island in half, 10 kilometers away, or 15 kilometers. Even the sea water is filled up, completely separating us from him. What a arrogant, domineering captain. Everyone spoke one after another, but soon Cyrus spoke blankly. But how does he leave? The boat has been driven away by us. The topic ended, everyone fell silent, and the expressions of tension and worry were once again brought on. Before worrying about the captain, let's take care of ourselves. Take Letterfield away, this is the task the captain gave us. Waldo suddenly spoke in a deep voice, his gaze looking forward. Above the sea, warships were fan-shaped, chasing them. Above the flagship headed, a figure exudes golden light, and its breath is majestic and solemn. The guy on the opposite side, but Sengoku of Buddha. Our troubles and dangers will not be under the captain. The deep voice sounded, and all the staff were tense at this moment. On the warship, Sengoku looked serious. Unexpectedly, there would be such an accident. Letterfield, who is known for his loneliness, would be rescued by the Black Flag gang. What's more dignified is the strength of Shimotsuki Jiāng Liú. He slashed the island away. This terrible man, Marine still seriously underestimates him. The more Sengoku thought about it, the more solemn it became. Looking at the members of the Haichi gang, each of them is incredible and hard to ignore. Adding Jangl Liú, a guy who has still been unable to determine the upper limit of his strength until now, this group of people instantly became heavier in Sengoku's eyes. Gar, he will leave it to you, be careful. Muttering softly, Sengoku's eyes sharpened. Red Island, East Coast. Jangl Liú cut the originally intact Red Island directly into the east and west with a single stab, which also made Marine's eyes widened and shocked in his heart. This scene is rare, just like a miracle. Jangl Liú, a man like you has no less potential than Roger, Whitebeard. It's amazing. Garp said in a deep voice. He stepped forward, his face majestic, his eyes focused. In the face of a man who can slash the island away, Garp will not underestimate the enemy. He has experienced many battles and knows that there are still many unknowns in this world. For example, before the man in front of him, no one would know that he would have such power before the other party showed up. Does such words mean, Garp Vice Admiral, you rejected my offer to drink tea? Jangl Liú smiled, his eyes sharpened. Rescue Waldo, let him be your crew member, and take Letterfield halfway here. Your ambition, even me, has been clearly seen. A guy like you, today, I will never let you go. Ask for flowers. Garp said in the end, he was already in a stance, his eyes sharp. Hoo. The sea breeze was blowing gently, blowing over everyone present. In the next second, Garp bends his knees slightly, and the shore under his feet bursts open, and disappears in the sound of the explosion. Jangl Liú also widened his eyes, roared, and waved a long knife in his hand. Good job. The long knife drew an arc, the light of the knife shone incomparably, the pressure in the air suddenly increased, and the void buzzed and rippled. In the next second, the long knife collided with the fist. Boom. There was a louder explosion sound. Where the two of them were, the ground exploded, lightning burst out, and the air current surged in all directions. Dot 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 dot. 0. Marine, who was close by, yelled and was swept up by the current, and flew towards the distance, panicking. Too terrifying. Did the collision between the two people shatter the space? The sky is divided into two halves. The earth is also cracked. The Marines covered their eyes, the high wind blew their clothes hunting and shaking, watching the scene in the field, and uttering shocking words. On the Red Island, a spider web-like crack appeared, the clouds in the sky rolled, and a huge gap appeared, and even the space around them appeared layers of folds. Such power. You kid, did you bring a mountain to your body? Garp's pupils contracted, his right fist trembled, and he shouted in a deep voice. Quality is power. Garp Vice Admiral. I have 1,000 tons of power with this knife, how do you feel? Jangl Liú grinned. Buzzing. Void was trembling, he retracted his right hand, and his right foot slammed on the ground again. 100 tons of power increase, right foot strengthened. Boom. This foot stepped on the ground, the cracks radiated to the surroundings, circles of air waves surged out, and the water on the coast sputtered waves. At the same time, Jangl Liú suddenly jumped up under the reaction of this force, and the long sword in his right hand suddenly swung down towards Garp in front of him. Chop! A 1,000-ton meteorite blow. The gust of wind howled, the air pressure reached an unimaginable point at this moment, and the ground exploded in a scene visible to the naked eye. Garp's pupils contracted and he let out a roar, swiping his fists towards the knife. And